Hey there, internet friends. Welcome to That D Plus Show. Class is in session for the only show from that nerdy site that lets you know what kind of quality to expect right from the name. I'm your host, Trevor Starkey, and each week we dive into a different Disney Plus offering and discuss its history, how it holds up today, and our general impressions. If you like the show, we would love it if you like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, all that fun stuff. Continuing our trend this month with some more Spider-Man. We're doing Spider-Man 2 today. Joining me for that, we have Logan Wilkinson. How you doing, Logan?
I'm doing great. It is very hot in Austin, Texas.
There you go. And I'm just realizing as we're talking, I've got to update your name because you're in here as Brandon Gann because Brandon joined us for a Final Fantasy 16 spoiler cast. So I gotta
very
swap
nice,
out
very
that
fun.
little Chiron right now.
It's been a minute since I've seen Brandon.
And also joining us, we have Cameron Abbott. How you doing, Cameron?
Hey, what's going on? I'll tell you what's going on. Hope dangles on a string, like slow spinning redemption, winding in, winding out. The shine of it has caught my eye.
Singing some Dashboard Confessional.
I was going to say.
And wrote me in, so mesmerizing, so hypnotizing. I am captivated. I am vindicated.
So
you know what I will say about, there's something to be said for, early to mid 2000s music, man. It hit different. Transformers, shout out to that, too. Great soundtrack.
Linkin Park, always great.
Yeah, Linkin Park's always great. I actually did this because I forgot to do it last week because I wanted to do, and they say that a hero will save us.
It's good.
That is a terrible Nickelback impression.
Oh, yeah, of course. So here's the fun thing. I was going to lean into this by saying, I actually hate Nickelback, legitimately, not in the Mimi way, I legitimately just don't like their music.
It's only ever in the Mimi way.
Here's the thing,
Nickelback is good.
I did at one point fall so far into the bit of hating Nickelback though, as the part of the meme, that I literally would go to the Nickelback official fan page on Facebook, find people who I had friends who liked that page, and unfriend them.
Too mean.
And then publicly say, if you are still my friend, it's because you haven't liked this page. If anybody has any questions about why, you know why now.
This is the second thing in this call today, Cameron, that you've said that makes me think, hey, you might want to talk to some people about some things.
This was 16-year-old Cameron.
Sure, that's fine.
That stuff got resolved with therapy beforehand.
Okay.
The thing I always say about Nickelback, and I can't remember the stand-up comedian who said it, so forgive me if someone can comment if they know it, but look, Nickelback was one of the 10 best-selling bands of 2010. Clearly, there is some of y'all out there who talk shit about Nickelback who are buying their albums and going to their concerts. You know what I mean? They're a bunch of hypocrites out here. That's what I gotta say. It's that's always my pick. Is y'all full of shit. You like Nickelback?
I mean, I never went out of my way to buy their albums or anything like that. But whenever they came on the radio, I was like, I like Nickelback. I like Nickelback just fine.
Yeah, exactly. They are not the worst band ever. Everyone needs to take a chill pill about Nickelback.
And actually,
and leave Guy Fieri alone too while we're at it. Just
No.
All right, stop, Cameron. No, Guy Fieri's fine. You stop being an idiot. But also, whatever
you guys don't know yet. So
we don't know yet. What?
The most recent stuff about Guy Fieri?
Apparently not. If there's new news on Guy Fieri from. I mean, I've not seen meme shit going around, but whatever. We don't need to dive.
This isn't meme stuff. This is news stuff. So
okay. I was gonna say I think it's the music video for Hero from Nickelback, where it's the time everybody has a counter on their heads.
Yeah,
I really like that music video. I thought that was a staple of I was always very happy to see it on MTV and VH1 back in the day. I was like, I really like the idea of that. Because I thought it was cool.
I just enjoy those music videos from that era in general.
Yeah,
they're just having a lot of fun.
It truly is the last. It's truly the last great era of music videos. Because after that, they just didn't exist anymore. I will say though, I'm just not a fan of the music. I think that they're fine. I think if you like them, like them. No need to gatekeep music. It's fine. I literally grew up through the 2000s listening to every other song being "Hoobastank's the Reason." I can live through anything. Nickelback is not as bad as, and it's not even that "Hoobastank's the Reason" is a bad song. It was just so overplayed.
Dude, this is a great camera. I love talking about these kind of movies. It always brings up these kind of what a great time to grow up in.
Yeah, but Vindicated, Dashboard Confessionals, for me, I love that band because it originally started out as one guy, but he always dreamed of putting a band together. And so he called himself a band until he grew the band around him by choosing the right people.
That's how you do. Fake it till you make it.
I didn't pull it in for the trivia, but I did see trivia out there that was like Dashboard Confessional agreed to write a song for the soundtrack, but only if they got like an early screening of the film.
Yep.
And they did.
That's
and
smart.
then they wrote the song Vindicated in like 10 minutes.
Yep.
So shout out to that.
Yep. They absolutely owned it. Also, just shout out to like you said, like we talked about it last week, Macy Gray and like all the other like the Sony tie-in, the empire that was the Sony empire in the 2000s, like whether it's video games with like the era of the PS2, it's music.
I mean like the Spider-Man the Spider-Man font is the PS3.
It is the PS3 font, yeah.
Like
this just the Sony the power that Sony held as like an internal empire is still phenomenal to like look back to and be like, man, that was a thing. Remember before they tried to say get a second job to buy a console?
Yeah. So anyway, talking about Spider-Man 2 today, as we continue our Spider-Man month, Sam Raimi's Spider-Man 2, originally released back June 30th, 2004. Other releases of the time, we had...
What a great list of movies.
We had Shrek 2, came out May 19th.
Gosh.
Shrek movie.
Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban, June 4th.
Probably the best Harry Potter movie.
Napoleon Dynamite, June 11th. Dodgeball, A True Underdog Story, June 18th.
Yeah, absolutely.
The Notebook, June 25th.
Yep.
Classic.
Spider-Man 2 here on June 30th. Followed July 9th by Anchorman, The Legend of Ron Burgundy.
Classic.
We, of course, had iRobot, July 16th, a favorite of mine from that era.
Hell yeah.
Same.
Same. Bourne Supremacy and Catwoman on July 23rd. You know, at least one of those was good.
On that one.
And then Garden State on July 28th.
Hell yeah.
There we go.
So yeah, it was a crazy busy summer.
It was a great list.
That summer was
2004.
legendary, man.
Yeah, I was just running through that list, yeah.
And we have covered this year in terms of like domestic box office stuff before. But we'll see what you guys remember. Domestic gross, the film had $373.6 million. So it was down a little bit from the 403.7 of the first Spider-Man movie. Where do you guys think that lands in the domestic gross conversation of the year?
I mean, just talking about summer movies, not even talking about like what the winter movie slate must have looked like.
Shrek 2 did better because Shrek 2 made close to $1 billion. I'm pretty sure. So like that one was wilding out.
Yeah, there's no way Shrek
worldwide, obviously, but yeah, like it was like going on.
The only thing I can think that top Shrek 2 is maybe Prisoner of Azkaban.
So I will highlight the other time that this year has come up was when we did National Treasure. That's why this year is one that has already been covered.
National Treasure was in the fall slate, like the fall winter slate.
Yeah.
Yeah. This is
there's no Bond movie this year. Is there? No, there's no Star Wars movie. There's no Bond. We're past Lord of the Rings now.
Yes, we are definitively. Yeah.
So none of those like huge tent poles. X2's already happened, but we're not at X3 yet. So I can't think of anything crazy big in the fall of the National Treasure. But Shrek definitely did better than it domestically.
The only thing I think that beat Shrek domestically is Prisoner of Azkaban. Oh wait, no, domestically.
I think Shrek did better than Prisoner of Azkaban.
Ooh, domestically, never mind. I take that back. I think Shrek 2 might be number 1 domestic.
I agree. I think I like Spider-Man 3 at number or Spider-Man 2 at number 3. I think domestic.
I think so. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah.
Number 10 was The Polar Express. Number 9,
great movie,
National Treasure. Number 8, The Bourne Supremacy. Number 7, The Day After Tomorrow. Number 6. Was Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban.
See, I knew Shrek definitely would have beaten. Okay.
Number 5, The Incredibles.
Oh, yeah, we blanked on that one.
Number 4, Meet the Fockers.
Oh my gosh, that's right.
Number 3, The Passion of the Christ.
Oh no, we forgot about Jesus.
Number 2, Spider-Man 2.
We're gonna do a different pick worldwide. I can tell you that.
And number 1 was Shrek 2. Yes. Shrek 2 had 441 million compared to Spider-Man 2's 373. Spider-Man 2 beat Passion of the Christ by $3 million.
So
yes, it was number 2 there, domestic. So worldwide, now that you've got a little bit more of a scope of the films that year.
Passion of Christ is number 1 then.
Shrek 2.
Worldwide.
I think Shrek 2 is still number 1 because Passion of the Christ is an R-rated movie, and it wasn't making.
But
so it's still.
But here's the thing: the people who normally don't watch R-rated movies all broke the rule to go see Passion of the Christ.
But are those people an international audience, Cameron?
Yes, because it's one of the largest. Yes.
I think my
people still mock.
Be...
People still get their hands nailed on a cross.
I mean,
it's definitely getting.
I'm going to tell you you're wrong now, Cameron. Okay. I'm looking at the numbers, but
I think my ranking would be Shrek 2. I also think Harry Potter is going to do better worldwide than it did domestic at 6.
Absolutely.
I think it's going to be
absolutely
Shrek 2. I'll say Passion of Christ. I'll say Spider-Man 2. I'll say Harry Potter 4.
I think
worldwide
it's Harry Potter 3, but also
well, Harry Potter 3 is number 4.
Oh, I see what you're saying. Okay.
Spider-Man 2 is number 3. It's the numbers are getting confusing now, but yeah.
Yeah.
So Passion of the Christ, I'd say, oh man, if the way you're saying it, Trevor, it's making me think that it dropped pretty significantly. I'm gonna say number 1, Prisoner of Azkaban. Number 2,
I don't think so.
Number 2, I would say, is going to be Shrek. Nah, I don't know how big Shrek is outside of the domestic box office.
Shrek 2 made almost, I know, like it made almost $1 billion. I know it was like the highest grossing animated movie ever when it came out. It was like massive. Yeah, it was huge.
By that, then I'd say Shrek 2, and then Passion of the Christ, then Spider-Man.
All right, Trevor.
So I didn't get to. Worldwide, it grossed $788.6 million.
Very respectable.
But that was down from $821.7 million of the first one. So, like, both domestically and worldwide, didn't do as great as the first movie. Even though
very good, but yeah,
all these years later, it is often lauded as the highlight of the trilogy.
It's because people didn't know Willem Dafoe shows up at the end.
Yeah,
sure. Number 10, Ocean's 12.
That's the weakest Ocean's movie though, but yeah.
Number 9, Shark Tale. Number 8, Troy, pulling in success from the.
I love movies.
The
what a fun
audience.
year!
Meet the Fockers drops down to number 7.
Makes sense.
Still 7.
The Day After Tomorrow, number 6.
Good for them.
Passion of the Christ drops down to number 5.
Okay.
I was close. I said 4. I said 4.
It brought in. It had 611 million total. So
yeah, R-rated movies. So it's got a ceiling on it.
R-rated movie and R-rated Christian specific movie. Didn't get play in the Chinese market, I don't think.
That's fair. That's fair.
The Incredibles at number 4 there with 631 million.
Oh, damn it, I forgot about The Incredibles again.
Yep. Spider-Man 2 at number 3 with 788.6. Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban at number 2, 795 million. And with a whopping 928 million.
Fucking knew it was close to $1 billion.
Shrek 2. Yeah.
There you go, Shrek 2. Respect, man. Yep. Shrek. Yep. I will also say, Shrek 2, my personal favorite Shrek movie.
Yeah, my personal favorite as well. Yeah,
I don't think you guys are alone in that. I think that is the main consensus is Shrek 2.
Fairy Godmother, man.
Yeah,
Fairy Godmother. Shout out to her cover, Looking Out for a Hero.
That every movie that tries to do it now fails, including Super Mario Brothers.
Yep.
Yes.
Nothing beats it. It's legitimately. I will say, Shrek 2, possibly, potentially. I haven't seen it in many years. Possibly a perfect film.
I love Shrek 2. I
have to rewatch it. We might have to knock down certain points if they insert homophobia or other things, but we'll see.
I don't think they do.
I mean, the worst or the closest they might get to that is the wolf being like the grandmother, always dressing in drag kind of thing.
Right.
But they more or less accept the wolf.
The wolf is never
who they are.
I don't recall the wolf ever being I think the question is posed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But I don't think
they ever make a joke at the wolf expense, just sort of what the wolf is doing.
Yeah. The wolf continues to dress in the dead grandmother's clothes. Yes.
Yeah. So yes, it was number 3 worldwide, number 2 domestic that year. Film has a runtime of 2 hours and 7 minutes. In the Sony Spider-Man timeline of things, we of course had the first Spider-Man 2 years earlier, May of 2002. Spider-Man 2 here, June of 2004, and Spider-Man 3 will return in May of 2007.
Can I just say, just as an aside, looking at this timeline, there's a little over 5 year gap between Spider-Man 3 and Amazing Spider-Man, and like with the benefit of hindsight, which obviously, well, take whatever you want, but like when Amazing Spider-Man came out, the amount of fucking op-ed articles I read about how like it's only been 5 years, and now we're recasting characters like 10 minutes after they were in, freaking Dwayne The Rock Johnson movies. It's like, oh, okay, like we were just such a privileged. And also, again, it's like why I say like one of the benefits of being a Bond fan. Okay, 5 years. We're recasting Bond actors immediately after they leave. Usually, what are you talking about? It's 5 years. Chill out. Like, it's crazy that it was half a decade and we were complaining about it.
Yep.
I know in my sphere of things, the complaint about it was that how quickly that film was put together, and like a lot of criticism.
Amazing Spider-Man.
The Amazing Spider-Man, yeah. The Amazing Spider-Man largely got made because Sony was going to lose the rights.
Yeah, I think that's where a lot of I remember the conversation being I'll probably look up some stuff for it for next week's episode. But like there were Spider-Man 4 ideas that had been like Sam Raimi
sound cool. Actually, they actually sounded pretty neat.
So ideas and everything just kind of fell through, and so they're like, well, we gotta do a reboot. And like I remember like the early like. Andrew Garfield and like just the joy and like excitement Andrew Garfield had to be playing the character. I was like, oh, I'm sold on this guy. I'm in and I'm interested. And then the movie came out, and again, we'll eventually, I'm sure, talk about it. The bigger issue I have with the Amazing Spider-Man is they were very much trying to make their own their own MCU. Like they'd seen the success of the MCU up to the Avengers and were like, okay, let's do that, and let's put in all these ideas for Sinister Six, and it all just feels very, very forced.
Well, that's the Amazing Spider-Man 2. I feel like
is mostly
it's way more in Spider-Man 2, but like it gets set up in the Amazing Spider-Man with like the mystery around the dad,
with the parents,
death.
It's the same thing that struck me also with the Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles reboot that they did around the same time, which was this weird obsession with like paternal legacy, like being like left like this unfinished paternal legacy, or like this mysterious like father was part, like there's always they take characters that were otherwise incidental as part of like they don't have like a tangential connection to the origin of these characters, so they take something like April O'Neil's dad is the one who like created the ooze, and like that movie alone is like nightmare fuel when it comes to like.
They also the success of Court of Owls. I'm like, we can make random characters into really big plot points here.
There you go.
You can't.
Yeah, I never actually saw that Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtles, but I'm excited for the next one that comes out.
The next one looks really good. I'm really excited for the next one.
Really good. I'm so excited
because they actually act like teenagers again. And that's fun.
And I'll say, I mean, just a kind of a precursor. Like one of the things I enjoy about this one is like the introduction to like Kurt Connors.
Yeah, perfect.
But he doesn't become the Lizard.
I agree.
It is just like, like they're just filling out the characters in, Peter's world in case they ever want to do something with them.
Well, they name dropped Doc Connors in Spider-Man 1 by saying he got fired from the lab.
Yeah.
And so this is the follow-up where we get to see Connors, like the pizzeria owner before. They like Peter. Peter is a likable guy. People enjoy him. They think that he's a really good guy. But he is so inconsistent and flaky in their perspective. And it makes sense. Like, you have Doc Connors who literally is giving Peter like a 30th last chance. And it's like, I agree with you. I love that aspect of it.
It feels very similar to like Billy D. Williams, Harvey Dent in the like first two Batman movies. Just like having the character so they can use him later on, but he's just sort of here to build out the universe right now.
All right, diving into the roll call, we of course once again have Sam Raimi here, having directed Evil Dead, and then these Spider-Man films. Will go on to do Oz the Great and Powerful, and most recently Doctor Strange in the Multiverse of Madness, who gets name dropped in this one. So that was a little precursor.
Shout out to them also saying it's already taken though.
Exactly, yeah.
So good.
Our writers here, the writing pair of Alfred Go and Miles Millar, are credited on the screen story, having previously written stuff like Lethal Weapon 4, Shanghai Noon, and Shanghai Nights.
Great.
They were the showrunners and creators of Smallville.
Great.
And then kind of basically like Smallville kind of opened the door here for Spider-Man 2. After Spider-Man 2, they would go on and do Herbie Fully Loaded and continue to run Smallville through its final seasons, or at least, maybe, if not its final seasons, like late into its run. And then most recently, they brought Wednesday to Netflix.
There you go. Wow. Talk about a great legacy.
Yeah. Big old gap there for a number of years until Wednesday put them back in. But yeah.
Herbie Fully Loaded gets a bad rap. It's a fine movie.
It's a fine movie, but it was also 15 years ago.
That's fair.
20 years ago, yeah. Michael Chabon is also credited on the screen story. After Spider-Man 2, he would go on to work on the screenplay for John Carter, as well as most recently, he was the showrunner for Star Trek Picard, which had a very rocky first and second season, but everybody seemed to really like the third season. So
there you go. I will put out there, I'm a big fan of John Carter.
Yeah, I enjoy John Carter. Yeah.
John Carter's a great, fun movie. Also happens to have Willem Dafoe.
Indeed. Yeah. Alvin Sargent, also credited here on the screenplay, with a number of writing credits going back to the 50s, 1956.
Jesus.
But like in the lead up to this, he had written the screenplay for the film Anywhere But Here, which, if I recall correctly, was the Anna Paquin Bird movie before she was cast in X-Men. But then he would go on to do Spider-Man 2, Spider-Man 3, and he made the jump and wrote the screenplay for The Amazing Spider-Man. So we'll talk about him next week again, too. Our cast of characters here, of course, we have Tobey Maguire returning, and I still have him credited in here as Tobey Maguire instead of Peter Parker. How did I not change that last week?
Because it's literally perfect. It's literally the perfect way to put it.
Yeah. Tobey Maguire, Kirsten Dunst, James Franco, all returning in their respective roles. Peter Parker, Mary Jane Watson, and Harry Osborn. Alfred Molina is our first kind of new cast member of this one, playing, of course, the role of Otto Octavius, Doc Ock.
So good.
Having most recently been in our conversation about a month and a half ago for Raiders of the Lost Ark, where he also then went on into Maverick, Boogie Nights. It's always funny to remember he was Snidely Whiplash in the Dudley Do-Right movie. Chocolat, Frida, and then after Spider-Man 2 here, he would go on to be in The Da Vinci Code, the Prince of Persia Sands of Time film, most recently Spider-Man No Way Home. Rosemary Harris returning as May Parker here, and J.K. Simmons as J. Jonah Jameson.
The absolute goat.
Not J. Johan Jameson. And we get, like, it's not directly called out, but obviously that first J stands for John. And the John Jameson we meet in the film is a John Jameson Jr. Donna Murphy getting very high billing for her role as Rosalie Octavius. Prior to this, she had been in the film Star Trek Insurrection. And then after this, she would go on to be Mother Gothel in the Tangled film. And then pretty much anything else Tangled related, including like she's Mother Gothel in Kingdom Hearts 3.
Yes.
Even she's even credited as Mother Gothel in the Disney Dreamlight Valley game that has taken up a lot of my time over this last year. And then she would also be in The Bourne Legacy. Daniel Gillies playing John Jameson had previously to this been in the TV series Street Legal, and then he would go on after Spider-Man 2 to be in Bride and Prejudice, as well as The Vampire Diaries, Saving Hope, and The Originals. Dylan Baker, as we alluded to earlier, makes his debut here as Dr. Kurt Connors, one of those iconic kind of character actors, been in a billion things, including that, like, I didn't pull it in because he wasn't like enough of a memorable character, but he was in an episode of West Wing somewhere.
Yes, he was.
He was also in a movie called Happiness that I never suggest anybody ever watch.
That's what I was going to pull is he's in Happiness. Of course, he's in Spider-Man 2 and 3. He was in Revolutionary Road, and
he's also very good in Selma.
Yeah, he's J. Edgar Hoover in Selma.
Yep.
Bill Nunn, I could have pulled in for the last one, so I wanted to give him some credit here. Also, in the same vein, I don't have him listed, but Ted Raimi, they are kind of the other people at the Bugle. Bill Nunn here playing Joseph Robbie Robertson, had been in Do the Right Thing, Sister Act, And then after the Spider-Man films, he's also in Sirens, which I believe is a series. And Ted Raimi plays the other guy, brother of Sam Raimi, the guy who coins Dr. Octopus in this film. Elia Baskin makes his debut as Mr. Ditkovich.
Great list of credits here, Trev.
Credits all the way going back to 1972, but including he's very much like one of those iconic like Russian guys. So he was in stuff like Spy Hard, Austin Powers' International Man of Mystery, Air Force One, Spider-Man 2 and 3 here, of course. He would join the Dan Brown-averse in Angels and Demons. He's in Transformers Dark of the Moon, and he was in Call of Duty Vanguard, written by our friend of the show and friend of us, Belinda Garcia. He plays Laura Bailey's father.
That's what I assumed.
In that. And he's like the second credit on the game's IMDb page. So,
but you know why, right? Because he's got eyes like a rodent.
Sure. So, and then Magina Tova playing his daughter Ursula. After Spider-Man 2 and 3, she would go on to be in the SpongeBob SquarePants movie. She, credited as Usher. I've not seen the movie, so I don't know it. I don't know if there's like a live action segment in there or something. Or
no, there is. Yeah, there's a massive live action.
There's plenty of live action.
Yeah. She would be in the series Joan of Arcadia and The Magicians most recently.
Yeah, she's in The Magicians.
We get a couple little pop-in cameos from Willem Dafoe and Cliff Robertson, returning as Norman Osborn and Ben Parker. And then
Jesus Christ.
a laundry list of like, hey, that guy cameos that I wanted to jot down. Of course, Bruce Campbell as the snooty Usher this time around.
Yeah.
Elizabeth Banks returning once again as Miss Brandt. You mentioned, or you thought like Spider-Man 1 was her first thing last time around. I looked it up. She had done Wet Hot American Summer the year before the first Spider-Man.
There you go.
So that was probably her bigger breakout thing.
Yeah.
Asif Manvi as Mr. Aziz, of course, from The Daily Show. Daniel Day Kim as Raymond, aka
I noticed that this time too.
The guy running the original machine that Doc Ock tries to use. Of course, he'd go on to be in Lost and Hawaii Five-0. Hal Sparks as the elevator passenger.
Yeah.
Iconic from this era, from VH1's I Love the 70s, 80s, 90s.
It's exactly.
All those.
Any VH1
Sparks,
thing
man.
ever.
Also,
he's
he's
always
in,
on VH1 shit.
What is the show? Queer Folks Like Us?
Maybe?
I know what you're talking. Queer as Folk.
Queer as Folk, that's right. Queer as Folk, yes. He's in Queer as Folk.
Yeah. Emily Deschanel. I jumped a couple. Joe McHale as Mr. Jax, the
young
bank person, of course. I think he was probably doing the soup at this point, or talk soup or whatever it was. Of course, would go on to be in Community. Brent Briscoe, I just wanted to give a shout out as the garbage man because he popped up. I was like, where do I know that guy from? I definitely recognize him. And I looked up his IMDb, and he is JJ from JJ's Diner on Parks and Rec. Not a ton of episodes, but he's a pivotal kind of iconic character from that series, and it's a near and dear series to my heart. Emily Deschanel as the receptionist, who, of course, a sister of Zoe Deschanel, and then, of course, the star of Bones for many, many years. Phil Lamar, an uncredited train passenger, there at the front of the train, I'm using the shot of Peter holding the train car as like the fourth frame on our screen, so he's like just off camera, or just outside of the shot. I saw him pop up. I was like, that Phil Lamar? Yes, it was. He's a voice actor extraordinaire. I will always think of him as Hermes from Futurama. Donnell Rollins as the pizza quote heist witness, of course, would later become an iconic performer on a Chappelle show. Mark John Jeffries as one of the amazed kids that Peter tells to eat vegetables. I shout out because he had been in the Eddie Murphy Haunted Mansion the year before that we did that D Plus show on many moons ago. Like the kid popped up. I was like, that looks like a kid I recognize from something. Sure enough, he's continued being, a working actor through all these years. But yeah, that was probably his biggest thing. John Landis in here as a random cameo as one of the doctors that gets destroyed in the one of the most iconic elements of this. Of course, Blues Brothers director and a number of other things. And then Chloe Dykstra is
that's the one.
One of the train passengers who, when Doc Ock comes back into the trains, like, and people are like, you're going to have to, walk through me. I know, like, one of those other guys, I think, is a Sopranos guy, the first guy that kind of says, like, you're going to have to go through me. She is the girl, like, the third one, like, me too kind of thing. She was also, so her father, John Dykstra, does the special effects for the Spider-Man movies. She was also in the, I didn't shout it out last time, but she was in the tram that Peter has to kind of like choose between at the end of the first movie. She's in there too. But yeah, in this, she has a little line in the train car saying like "me too," and then Doc Ock just like shoves everybody aside. So yes, Chloe Dykstra, kind of in the nerd sphere from stuff like Nerdist and Machinima. And then Stan Watch. What do you guys recall or have a guess as to what Stan's like cameo character name is?
I know exactly what it is.
Save someone from like the fallen rocks.
Yeah, during the bank heist, he saved somebody from some fallen debris.
Yes, his I'll give you the point there, Cam, because his credited title is Man Dodging Debris. Continuing a nice little trend that he's basically been like an everyday hero saving somebody in each of these first two movies. I don't remember if that carries on into Spider-Man 3. We'll see next week.
No, we'll talk about it next week. It's fine.
I do have a little thing for him in the trivia section here in a bit, but before we get to that, our all out of bubblegum body count. How many bodies do you think are in this film?
I mean,
God, I'm trying to think. Like the hospital scene's really the bloodbath.
Yeah, it is. Yes. That's our bunker for that can really throw off our count.
I'll say counting doctors and nurses. I'll say there are like 10 people there, and then outside of that, the movie actually I feel like is pretty bloodless, right? Like Doc Ock dies, obviously, but like outside of that, like Peter, Harry, Mary Jane are all fine. Aunt May's fine. Doc Ock's wife dies. I don't think anyone else dies during the like explosion shit. So like I'll say 13 people die.
All right. Cam, how about you? What's your guess?
I'm actually going to go a little higher and say 18.
18? The final tally is 15. I will say All Out of Bubblegum has it at 17, but that's because they are counting Uncle Ben's body and the Green Goblin's body in the like opening
get
stuff.
Out of here.
So yes, I pulled that out.
Yeah.
So yes, 15 bodies total. And the second part of this,
Logan, what'd you say?
I think Logan said 13.
Yeah, you win it by one.
We basically split the difference. Yeah.
So of those 15, one is not Doc Ock infused. Who is it?
I'm trying to remember.
Is it counting the person who died in the fire?
That is who it is.
Yeah,
it
right?
is, yes, the person who died in the fire. The first death, Rosie Octavius, killed by Otto's experiment.
Yeah, it's really far into the movie then. Wow. Yeah.
Also, it's horrifying. I forgot how terrifying her death is, because I thought she gets hit by like debris. And it's not. She gets like stabbed by a bunch of glass.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And you like see her reaction in the glass as it's stabbing her. It's crazy.
It's great. Sam Raimi, man.
During the escape, Octavius's tentacles kill 10 surgeons, and then Octavius crushes one taxi driver.
Yes.
Which like I remember like seeing that. I'm like, oh, that like you definitely see like a body in the driver's seat of that taxi, and I'm like, oh, that guy's dead.
Yeah, that guy's dead. Because he whips that real quick. There's no way that guy could have gotten out, especially in New York. They're not going to get out of their car.
Shout out to nailing that it was 10 though in the hospital scene. I'm proud of that.
Yeah, that seems great.
They list, and this one's probably the most up for debate, but they list one in the bank robbery, listing Octavius kills at least one guard with a little asterisk there saying he throws 3 up in the air, but only one is shown colliding with a wall in an easily fatal way. But the other 2 could have survived, so not counting them.
I counted them. That's why mine was higher, because I thought he killed 4 guards.
Gotcha. Yes, the one guy is killed in the burning building, so that is our non-Octavius related death, and then Dr. Octavius drowns himself to stop the machine, bringing our total up to 15.
Had to be done.
A little bit more trivia here. I'm gonna try and start remembering to pull this in because it's something I'm like, oh, I should like sing the praises of these films a little bit more sometimes. So I've got a little award section now. This did win the Oscar for Best Visual Effects.
It should have.
It was also nominated for sound mixing and sound editing, but did not win those awards. It won the Critics' Choice Award for Best Popular Movie. And it won the Kids' Choice Award for Favorite Movie and Favorite Movie Actor for Tobey Maguire.
It won a handful of like Saturn Awards as well.
Oh yeah. I will definitely kind of be like picky and choosy in terms of like one of the things I was going to pull in here was like, did it win a lot in the way of like MTV Movie Awards? And like,
sure.
It didn't.
Oh no, that's right, because it was coming out
because it came out alongside of some of the other juggernauts we talked about. Yeah,
Shrek 2.
It was nominated for a lot of them. But
Shrek 2 stole the MTV Movie Awards.
Yeah,
I'm sure it did. It should
probably a lot of the Kids' Choice Awards too.
Absolutely, yeah.
Oh yeah, for sure that. Yeah.
So Stan Lee originally filmed the cameo of the man who claims, "Whoa, he stole that guy's pizza," but because of some problems with the shot. It ended up being refilmed with Donnell Rawlins, and Lee was later given a different cameo, the man avoiding debris or whatever I said earlier. Alfred Molina, who plays Dr. Octopus, actually gave names to his 4 mechanical tentacles: Larry, Harry, Flo, and Mo. Flo was the top right tentacle because it was operated by a female grip, and that particular tentacle was the most motherly. It removes his sunglasses and gives him a sip of the drink that he takes from Harry. Which I did like see after putting in that little bit of trivia, and I was like, well, yeah, it is like the most dainty of the hands that it like does the delicate work. When Jonah Jameson offered the Scruffy Man $50 for the Spider-Man costume he found, the garbage man replies, "I could get more for it on eBay." In 2001, 4 Spider-Man costumes were stolen from the set of the first Spider-Man movie. They were eventually recovered after an 18-month investigation and the arrest of a former movie studio security guard and an accomplice. While Columbia Pictures offered $25,000 reward for information leading to their return, movie memorabilia experts estimated the value of the costumes as about $50,000 each. Tying back to one of the other cameos, or 2 of the other cameos we discussed earlier, Phil Lamar originally auditioned to play the elevator passenger. However, Hal Sparks got the role, and Lamar settled for an uncredited appearance as a train passenger instead. And then a couple just iconic deleted scenes from this one. Sadly not available on Disney Plus, but you can go find them out there. The violinist who crops up throughout the movie, serenading Spider-Man, had an additional scene that's deleted from the film. When Harry hears her from the balcony of his father's townhouse, he pours a glass of scotch on her. And of course, iconically, this pops up on like Twitter and stuff every now and then. But J. Jonah Jameson was dressing as Spider-Man and imitating his webbing poses and jumping around while his employees watched him in awe at what he'd done. Robbie being displeased, Betty laughing, and Hoffman being stunningly shocked at him dressing as Spider-Man. Obviously, we do not get that in the final film. It was definitely like, I've seen that video so much, I could have sworn it was in the movie. So when I didn't see that scene in the movie, I was like, what's the deal with that? And kind of it led to this little segment. So that's what I've got for the trivia. So let's dive in. How does this movie hold up? What does everybody think? Logan, let's start with you.
Yeah. So I will say, I assume going into this, I was probably the person who liked Spider-Man 2 the most to begin with. But I hadn't seen Spider-Man 2 all the way through in a number of years. And having now gone through it again, I can say that I've never liked Spider-Man 2 more.
Okay.
In fact, I would go so far as to say that this is my favorite Marvel movie of any kind. And I think after watching it in this most recent viewing, it is my second favorite superhero movie ever, behind On the Dark Knight. I think I'm going to be super high on the movie. I think it's like actually a masterpiece. Like, I think there's just about nothing I would change. I think it's incredible how well it holds up. I think there's a lot of Into the Spider-Verse, like anyone can wear the mask elements of this movie, and like kind of the universality of like being a hero and being Spider-Man and what he represents. I think kind of the existential journey and the themes of like sacrifice and the balance of like dreams and doing what's right that it goes through for multiple carriers or multiple characters, excuse me, is like handled so well. I think it balances being really funny, actually, in a way that I think the first one, while still funny, I think this one is like funnier while also being way more serious and more emotional and nailing those beats. I think that Toby and Kristen Dunst's chemistry is like so good. I think J. Jonah Jameson's good. I think Aunt May has my single favorite moment of the entire movie that we'll get to. Like on pretty much every single level that works for me. Like I think it's absolutely brilliant. So I'm super high on the movie, actually, more so than I was before even.
All right. Kim, how about you?
I love this movie dearly. This is my favorite of the Sam Raimi trilogy. I think it is by far I think it's by far the best out of
yeah.
I think this is the best Tobey Maguire is ever Spider-Man.
Oh yeah, I agree with that. That's a good way to put it too.
I said last week that I think that he is a phenomenal Peter Parker in the way that he captures a sort of doe-eyed innocence. I liked how everything about this movie is, and this probably leans into why it's your favorite, Logan, is the universe is just taking the fattest dump on Peter Parker in this movie.
Yeah.
Nothing goes right for him. Nothing goes well for him. Nothing is even remotely good for him up until he...
like the whole movie, basically.
The entire movie. At no point. It isn't until he stops being the... How do I put this? It's not until he lets other people write their own stories in his life that... And he gives them the agency of choice as part of his choice and being a part of his life. Because something I didn't realize until watching it like when I was watching it today during my lunch, the last half of it today during my lunch, is people who, like in the first film, Peter is surrounded by people that care about him. Mm-hmm. And over the course of that film, he starts isolating himself from those people one by one by one until the very end where he basically isolates himself alone.
Yeah.
This is a movie about him he doesn't tear down those walls. He lets other people break their way through them to him. Mm-hmm. And I think it's captured in several scenes. And there's two scenes in particular where it's successful. And there's one scene where somebody makes a decision or ends up in a situation where they're supposed to make a decision. And we will find out, suppose it's a cliffhanger for the next film. But I think it does a great job of delivering on these established characters while filling out the world with more ancillary ones. Trevor pointed out earlier, Dr. Connors just being Peter's professor, name dropped in the first film, giving an actual speaking role in this film, and showing that Peter is surrounded by people who really do care about him. Even the boss that fires him, is making a hard choice for that boss. And I like that it shows this. We are seeing Peter Parker is this endearing person who people do care about, but him not being open with people and isolating himself off like this is what, and that's a part of the theme too. It's like, you can't just let your secret be a secret. There has to be more to it than you, because otherwise you end up alone. And I love that that is a part of the message of this movie. It is not something I ever realized before watching it this afternoon, having like that epiphany. And it's such a great film, top to bottom, and also massive shout out once again. A vocal supporter of Spider-Man is not wearing a Yankees cap, wearing a Mets cap once again. Let's go Mets.
All right, I get to jump in on that. I'm very much the coolest of the three of us, and that doesn't surprise me. But I will say, like, I enjoyed the movie. I watched it Sunday night over the weekend just to kind of like knock it out of the way, made the doc on it, and then rewatched it last night just to kind of like have it very fresh in my mind. And there are a lot of things I like about this. And obviously there are a lot of the most iconic Spider-Man moments. Obviously, right. I'm using the image of Peter on the train as one of them. Obviously, every other Spider-Man we've had has basically had that kind of like their version of that kind of moment. Like even Peter kind of like, being carried in without his mask and everybody like the city, agreeing to kind of keep his secret. we had that in like Spider-Man Miles Morales, that same kind of like beat. So that continues. The things that don't work for me are, again, like a lot of the Raimiisms. In particular, there are like I one of the reasons I rewatched it was to like go through and take notes. And it was like, I hate a lot of the long, overly drawn out scenes of like cringe humor. The first one being like the broom scene at like right before pizza time.
Oh, it's so good.
Right before pizza time.
I hate it so much. God. It goes on way too long. It doesn't make me laugh at all.
Oh god.
And just that doesn't work for me. The elevator scene, another one, doesn't work for me.
Oh no, Trevor.
Oh man,
so
okay.
good.
And the I'm back to my back, and then the 30 seconds of him slowly walking away. Like all of those moments, all of those moments would work for me if they were a beat and done.
Oh no.
The fact that they all overstay their welcome, just like it drags the movie. It just like drags the movie to a halt for me 3 very like prominent times throughout the movie. So I don't like those. I don't like how dumb Peter is in a lot of just like things in this movie, like especially for a Peter that is presented as like, oh, he's like a genius, he's just lazy. It's like, no, a genius isn't like forgetting to take the lens cap off at his job at a big fancy party. A genius doesn't like fuck up putting a tire on a bike. Like they're going for like, oh, adorably, like
the term you're looking for is
goofy or something like that. Yeah, adorable. It doesn't, like, those things don't work for me. But like, admittedly, those are. And I in the 20 years since this, I've gotten very much past the like, oh, it's charming that he's trying to go after Mary Jane and win her back after she's already engaged. That's not charming to 38-year-old Trevor. That's like, you're being a creep and like a bad guy, Peter. Like you blew your chance. Let her have her happiness. So I don't like that. But there's also like, but like, again, that said, like, I like adding, John Jameson as a character. They don't do a lot with him, and I don't think they even bring him back in the next movie.
Yes.
Do they?
I don't think they do.
No,
like,
they
they could have, because he is like a a villain in the series.
I'm confusing it with the cartoon. It's okay.
Yeah,
we're good. No, they go with the alternative telling of Venom's.
Even like the slow build here that we get of like Harry continuing to like go down the path of his father. I just have to forget that they do the whole stupid amnesia thing in the next movie. That's what I'm not going to like. I love him in this movie, and I love like his
he's so good.
Continued like frustration and like
simmering
obsession.
Rage.
Oh, he has the most realistic, like, Peter, this guy, like, you are like, their conflict is so good. Their conflict is so good.
Yeah.
And it blows up at the gala, and he just smacks it. And it's
it literally slaps him in the face.
And there's
twice.
nothing Peter can really say about it, because he's right in a way. Mm-hmm. He's right. Like, I love the idea that Peter is like, that is, he cannot comfort Harry as his best friend, because the expectation is, you would tell me this man killed my father. You would tell me. And he just like, I love that. It just boils to the point in this movie. And I love all of that.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
And it's so great. And I like, one of the reasons why this is my favorite of the trilogy is because it's almost like Harry's in a different movie than everybody else. But at the same time, he's so in the movie itself. Yeah. It's not like he's outside of the movie in his own movie. It's like his movie is inside of the movie itself, because he is, once again, what I talked about earlier about people putting up walls and isolating themselves. He's like, that's the path Harry takes in this. And his path down it. It's really, really good. And it's great. I love that entire dichotomy of like, at his birthday, like, Harry's still going to show up to Peter's birthday because they're best friends.
And Mary Jane's play as well.
He's going to show up to Mary Jane. He's seen Mary Jane's play
moment
twice.
He's there,
sent her a bouquet of roses because even though they're not together anymore, he still loves and cares about her as her friend. I think that it is just such a great, and also he has he talks about how he got promoted to a leadership position, like a board position at Oscorp now. At the beginning of the movie, he talks about it. It's like he's been making moves. He's been in his own like kind of like quote unquote revenge plot movie, trying to nail down Spider-Man, and the crux of it, the person holding it back is his best friend, because it's his. I love it because he's your bread and butter, and it's just like it's true, because what happens at the beginning of Spider-Man 2, Peter relents, gives J. Jonah a photo of Spider-Man.
Yep.
Just it's so freaking good on that level. Sorry, I didn't mean to interrupt you.
No, that's fine. So yeah, I mean, there's a lot I do like about this movie, but there's also like glaring things that just don't work for me.
Trevor doesn't really like Sam Raimi.
And yeah, like,
I love that the things he does like are things I'm like, oh, I love that shit. Give me more of it. Oh,
because that's the Sam Raimi Michigan film.
The extended awkwardness of those moments are so. It's what makes them so special.
For me, the problem in each of those moments is they don't have that like beat where they come back around and are funny again. It's like they have the funny beat, then they go on too long, and that's where it stops. Like they just go on too long. They don't add anything as a button to the 3-act structure of that kind of joke setup. And they don't go on long enough that it becomes funny again to me. It's just, I'm just watching him do the same thing for an extra 30 seconds that I didn't need to watch him do.
You hate, you know what? Here's the thing though. You hate stupid things that are stupid for stupid sake.
Yeah.
And that's what this is.
Yeah.
Because I keep on thinking, I was like, no, but exactly why don't you think it's, and then it hits me. It's like, wait, no, Trevor hates these things.
I mean, like, especially like the first one, the broom one, it is like, okay. The
broom one is so good.
Everything about what has been set up so far is he has to do this in a hurry. So much so he's abandoned his bike and he's just gone full Spider-Man mode and he's going to get there as quickly as he can. And then he gets there and spends a minute trying to deal with broom closets instead of delivering the pizza. Good. And it's like, that's not Spider-Man doing a heroic thing and saving a day. That's just bad prop comedy that goes on too long.
Let's take this into consideration though. All of those scenes that Trevor mentioned that he hates is all prop comedy gone on too long.
Yeah.
And so Trevor hates that makes sense.
I mean, like, for me, the elevator isn't prop comedy, and the car one isn't prop comedy either. It's just like a beat that just goes on too long.
For me, the broom closet one works really. I love how this is what we're going to focus on. The broom closet one works for me because to like an earlier point you made even of like, you know, Peter forgetting like the like lens cap on his camera and having the tire flop off because he's a genius, so he shouldn't figure this out. Like, Peter is a person still too. Like, part of what makes Peter Parker such a great character is that like, yeah, he's super smart, but like he's also just like kind of goofy, right? And like he's just sort of a nerd, and like he's brilliant at like theoretical shit, but not necessarily at like everyday stuff the same way. Like, he was just like a nerdy guy before he became Spider-Man, and I like him because to me like they are so Peter Parker. Like him, like he can like solve this like advanced like theoretical equation, but God help him if he needs to put a tire on his bike, or God help him if he needs to like not be socially awkward at a ball, right? Or like needs to like not and not like
also
and not
to
like
a point
fuck it up at a broom closet.
I took it as this is like Peter's first time at a big fancy gala like this, because
same.
They mentioned that their society photographer is gone.
Yeah.
And so they needed somebody to fill in for that society photographer. And so it's Peter whose really only job is to get more pictures of Spider-Man.
But still, like, his like one of the things that has been established as the character even before he was Spider-Man was he was a photographer. And so like,
yeah, but Trevor, my job requires me to carry around a camera, and sometimes I forget the lens cap is on for it.
Yeah, like you just like that's like you forget shit sometimes. Like to me, it was just like more of just like that's Peter. Like he just sort of like he's kind of a klutz, even though he's Spider-Man. Like
I was literally at a graduation event for the school that I work for, and I turned on the camera and wondered why it wasn't giving me a photo, like a picture showing up.
But Cameron, I expect this from you. I don't expect it from Spider-Man.
Wow, Trevor.
I mean, that's the goddamn
Joke's
honest
on
truth.
you. I'm actually a secret web slinging vigilante.
And it's like, I am Spider-Man. Yeah.
So yeah, I mean, like it's for me, it's those moments don't play as like charming, endearing Peter moments.
I don't think they're supposed to be charming or
they
endearing.
play
It's
as like, oh, Peter's a moron sometimes, and I just don't.
Yeah.
I don't like. That's not what I'm looking for in like a Peter Parker or Spider-Man for me.
I find it realistic.
I mean, again, like those are minor gripes over the course. of the
for sure, yeah. Though we're all bickering over minor things.
Like Alfred Molina, great, obviously.
Oh my gosh,
a wonderful,
oh my God, yes.
like turn, like enjoyable, like take. Also, like just another like silly, very stupid Sam Raimiism is the bank just literally having like cartoon bags of gold coins and stuff like that. I was like, I hate this, but at least it's like so leaning into that choice that it's like,
so great.
all right,
I love it.
This can't be deemed anything other than a cartoon.
Oh,
like,
and the giant vault's just hanging out in the lobby?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, thank you. Yeah.
Yeah, no,
the money-shaped bags.
Yeah,
exactly.
yeah,
money-shaped
great.
bags just filled with gold coins. It's like, wow, like that's not how money worked in the 2000s.
That's part of the charm. That's part of the charm
Yeah.
of Sam Raimi in these movies.
Like,
I love that.
That is like the one of those like really stupid things that I'm like, fine, whatever. I'll give you that one. But yeah, like a lot of the other things just didn't click for me. But it was like I thought it was going to be a much more painful watch for me. So I was pleasantly surprised that I wasn't as bothered by the film as I thought I was going to be coming into it. There are definitely like those elements that I don't like and that I've touched on are the elements that don't age well for me and that just make this feel like, bad pacing and kind of elements of that. But, so many other elements of the movie work for me better here.
Work well.
I do ultimately like, I think this is probably going to be my favorite performance of Toby's as this character.
Easily.
Apart from,
I'll go ahead and tell you the spoiler on that one right now.
I mean, I liked him. I probably like him more in No Way Home because because of how he's used in No Way Home. But yeah, of these movies, like this is easily going to be the best of those runs.
But you're seeing that's the final evolution of this adorkable Peter Parker is that he kind of grows up and gets better at just being a human being.
Yeah, until he becomes Bully Spider-Man next time around.
We don't need to talk.
Bully
I mean, we do need to talk about
it.
We will
talk about it extensively next week, I'm sure.
Oh no, I got sick next Thursday. I don't have. Oh no.
But yeah, like again, the I think one of my favorite elements of this that just doesn't work in the Amazing Spider-Man movies is that it is naturally kind of building out the universe of its characters.
Yeah.
Be it through Harry, be it the introduction of Dr. Connors in this, and just kind of the extra little bits here and there of characters kind of being introduced. Like how cool would it have been if there had been like some kind of reference to Otto Octavius in the last movie that set up for this movie. I think that's a joy that we get more and more now in kind of the increased ideas, and they can kind of play with those ideas a little bit more. But yeah, it's I ultimately I had a good fun time with this. I'm curious, Logan, you specifically mentioned an Aunt May moment that really worked for you. I'm curious which one it was, because there's an Aunt May moment that like I feel should work for me better, but then I actually like listen to the words of the scene. I'm like, I don't like that. That's the takeaway that this movie wants me to have. In particular, I'm talking about her speech to Peter that like gets him to kind of like put the mask back on kind of thing, of like, there's a hero in all of us. There's a hero in all of us. Great. Love it. Perfect. But then she follows it up with like, and sometimes you just have to be steady and give up on your dreams. And I'm like, I don't like that. That's not I don't want a hero that has to give up on their dreams to be a hero. I want them to be a hero while still getting to enjoy their dreams. And so like that is that being the takeaway of this movie. I'm like, oh, I don't like that.
But that's so. This is where I would say that's actually not the. So the takeaway is, you have to be willing to do that. Doesn't necessarily mean you have to do that. You just have to be willing to make that sacrifice. And part of that, I think, is when it comes full circle at the end, because if you're willing to give that up, if you're willing to make that sacrifice, then the right people will fill in the gap.
But I mean, that's
like Mary Jane.
That's
Mary
what
Jane,
he did at the end of the last movie. So like, I don't know why that needed to be reinforced, I guess.
Because he's doing it differently this time. He's doing it differently because at the end he chooses to let MJ make the choice of whether or not she's going to be with him.
So you're saying in literally the very last scene
yes.
of the movie, okay?
The very last,
because he still tries to not.
Yeah,
he still tries to.
He's still trying to make. He's basically, and this is one of the things I love about the MJ Peter Parker romance, because this is also very much how it is in the comic books. Is the Peter being the person willing to let, hey, MJ, I need to be Spider-Man first because that's my calling. That's what I'm supposed to do. His dream is to have this awesome, wonderful life with MJ and living that perfect life. But he has to be willing to what he's going to place as the priority. And he chooses to be somebody who saves people. And he finds the right partner in Mary Jane because she's willing to take that extra step to be with him. To take that extra step of making it work. That's one of the things I love about when he talks about his romantic life in No Way Home. He says, no, I'm with my MJ. He goes, it's hard and it doesn't always work, but we always make it work. And I think that is a touchstone to the ending of this, which is you have a duty and responsibility, because with great power comes great responsibility, but the right people will take that extra step to be with you. And I think that was my takeaway. And so Aunt May is saying this as kind of like you have to be willing. Sometimes sometimes they have to be willing to give that up. And I don't see that as Aunt May like prophesying anything or whatever. I see that as her trying to set the right tone, which is Peter up to that point. You mentioned it earlier. Peter was being a creep, pursuing MJ, and it also is, it doesn't suddenly magically start working for Peter. He's doing better at school. Well, he has the time to do his homework now. And he has the time to show that he's not actually lazy. It's finding that balance in his life that he is just not able to do up until towards the end, where it feels like he kind of is making his way towards that balance. And the thing that falls short is his relationship with MJ, and MJ makes the decision to pick up and take that extra step to be with Peter.
It's an interesting takeaway, because my takeaway is not that Peter finds balance or even like heads down to finding balance. Like, Peter at the end of this movie is giving up Peter Parker to be Spider-Man. Like he's giving up those wants to be the hero that, Spider-Man is. So I'm sure there's like an element of like that will give Peter personal satisfaction, but I don't see it as like, oh, he's finding a way to balance the best of both worlds. Obviously, we don't get the end of that, we don't get to see, how that is going to play out until the next movie. And admittedly, I don't remember balance wise how the next movie kind of kicks things off. I feel like it's not good though.
It's not good.
I feel like that's going to be the arc of the next movie still.
No, because
he doesn't find balance.
No, because the next one he does, like, we will get into it next week, but specifically it starts off with things he does have balance. It isn't until Green Goblin V2, like Mach 2 shows up and like the whole thing with the amnesia and everything, that's what throws things off in that movie. As far as like his life relationship and everything, and then also the symbiote gets involved. So he does achieve that, but it is thrown off by these other obstacles that come at him, and it goes back to, I think, No Way Home, where it's we do our best to make it work as kind of the thing, and I like that a lot.
Logan, you wanted to jump in with some stuff.
Yeah, I mean, so that is my favorite moment of the movie. I mean, to me, that moment works exceptionally well, and like that was never the moment that I remembered of the movie. I always remembered like the train scene in particular was like my favorite moment of the film, and like I still think that moment works extremely well, and how like poignant and quiet it is in a lot of ways, the train sequence. But the Aunt May one works, I think, in a way that to me, like, it is such a, I think, like, perfect encapsulation of like sort of the ethos of who Peter Parker is, in a way that like the Dark Knight speech at the end of that movie, so like that is who Bruce like Wayne is, and even like in terms of like an emotional beat, like the Cap and Peggy scene at the end of Endgame, like it's just so like this is what the character is, this is what they want, this is their thing, right? And like I sort of actually, weird enough, agree with both of your interpretations of the moment, which makes it sort of fun for me. Because I think that, you know, being a hero is hard, right? Like that's sort of the point. Otherwise, the whole world would be filled with heroes, right? Like you have to be willing to sacrifice something, right? Like in some ways, it's sort of evocative to me of like La La Land, right? Of like you can have like the three like, you know, things of like fame, love, and success. You can only have two of the three, right? Which one are you going to have is like a central theme of La La Land. I think it's sort of an element here too of like you can have, you know, your happily ever after life, or you can be Spider-Man, but you can't necessarily have both. And you have to be okay with that. You might get both, but there's always a risk that you will lose it, right? And you have to be willing to be okay with that, right? You have to be willing to almost become something larger than yourself. Like it's to me, it's very Dark Knight-esque in that sense of like being a symbol, not just a person, not just a man, right? Like it is inspiring like Henry Jackson or whatever his name is, right? And, you know, all the kids like him, right? And being, again, that very like Spider-Verse-esque message of like anyone can become you, that has to mean something. And I think Amazing Spider-Man 2 sort of tries for this moment with like the little dumb kid who keeps running around in a Spider-Man mask, and it doesn't work as well for me. Because that one's like too ham-fisted, but this one like is just a really nice one of like he wants to be like you. He's got great ambitions, right? And like this all being like with the thin veil, like Aunt May pretty much pretending that she doesn't know that Peter is Spider-Man, which I think is like a recurrent. Like to me, I've always read the movies like this trilogy of like she pretty much knows from the jump that he's Spider-Man and is just sort of like pretending, and then she sort of says that in the next movie. Spoiler alert, but like, yeah, like it works so well, and both because it reads for like him becoming Spider-Man again, but also just like that message works well for just even if she didn't know that, as like this is just good advice for someone to have. Like sometimes it's important to just do the right thing, even if it hurts you, because it's still the right thing, right? And like I think, you know, I think so much of what makes Spider-Man and Peter Parker special as a character for 60 years now is that among this giant legion of heroes, he is sort of just the most good, right? Like he's just a good kid, even when he like so wishes he could not be a good person. Like he just is, right? And I think in a lot of ways, like the closest parallel to him isn't necessarily Captain America. It's probably Clark Kent, right? In DC Comics, right? In terms of just like, he's just a good person. And he sort of can't help himself to do the right thing. And I think, or maybe even Bruce Wayne to a degree, like, because he sort of almost resents that fact sometimes in this movie. And throughout like his comic run, like he wishes he could be more selfish. He wishes he could just not give a damn, right? I like the fact that like, the thing that sort of sets this moment up is him watching the Muggin like right before it, right? And that sort of like already troubling him a lot. And like you can see it in his face, and then it leads like right into this moment. And like he's already had doubts, like he just knows the right thing to do, the burning building sequence, like he just can't help but do the right thing. And then like he just didn't know how to reconcile that with what his dreams are. And yeah, like I think it sort of sucks, but like I think the lesson actually sort of is like sometimes you have to give up what your dreams are to do the right thing and to do good, right? Like your dreams can change, like what you want can evolve and change. And you know, he never necessarily dreamed of this life before it happened, and now it's sort of here. And I think in Spider-Man 1, when he like walks away and like, you know, is like, I'm gonna just be Spider-Man, I think this movie shows that he didn't really commit to that, right? Like he still was chasing after Mary Jane. He still wanted to be Mary Jane. He still wanted to be friends with Harry. He still wanted to do all those other things. He still tried to balance both sides of this, right? And have like the best of both worlds. And this movie in this moment to me is sort of saying, you can't do that. You have to pick, right? And like Cameron said, like you might end up getting Mary Jane still. She can make that choice, but you have to sort of say, I'm going to be Spider-Man. Right. I'm going to be Spider-Man before anything else. And the moment works so well for me, I think, in that regard. Right. And it sort of reminds Peter, I think, what it actually means behind with great power comes great responsibility. Because I think in the first movie for me, he like took those words to heart in a very teenager way, right? Because that's what he was in that movie. And he was sort of like, yeah, like, I'm just going to do good stuff. And didn't necessarily understand the ramifications of that and like how it would affect him. And then I think in this movie, he sees that, and Aunt May sort of gives him the second half of with great power comes great responsibility, which is also like, and also it requires sacrifice, right? Like you are going to have to sacrifice something with that great power and with that great responsibility. You can't just have, you're not a god, right? Kind of thing. And so I like that moment because I think it sort of actually gives weight to with great power comes great responsibility and makes Peter fully realize what it takes to do that. And then he sort of chooses it from there.
There are three things I want to say. Something I wanted to say earlier is one of the things I love about that scene is she's wearing Uncle Ben's shirt.
Yes.
She's wearing his
immediately noticed.
Yeah, his flannel shirt.
Such a nice
one of his flannel shirts from the first film. She's wearing it as she's packing up.
Also, very noticeably, the wedding ring is shown in that scene multiple times too.
Yep. Yeah. The second thing is, I think you hit a nail on the head. Peter's interpretation after being extremely selfish in Spider-Man is to be incredibly selfless and also not accepting change. He is trying to keep the thing
everything the same as it was.
Yeah, he's trying to keep things the same as they were without reconciling the change. And part of that is also selling the house. Part of that is a lot of it. It is
telling Aunt May the truth of like what happened, right?
And telling the truth. And when she says it, that's an incredibly brave thing you did to just.
That almost made me cry when she said it. Was like, fuck, that was good, Aunt May.
Yeah. There's something about that scene where she reconciles, like she doesn't react in the best way, where she just gets up and leaves because she can't handle it. She needs to process it. She needs space and time to process it, and that's understandable. But I also think it's also a question of not a question, but an idea of with great power comes great responsibility, and his interpretation after being extremely selfless to then going selfless and kind of not making like I mentioned earlier. It's like a shackle that's on him and constantly weighing him down. And it isn't until Aunt May gives him, like you said, the second half of that, which is with great power comes great responsibility and may require great sacrifice.
Yeah.
You might have to sacrifice the thing that's most important to you, your dreams. That's somebody who's a hero and somebody who takes that idea of with great power comes great responsibility is willing to take on the challenge of they might have to give that up. And that's something I really like about it. Another thing I wanted to say about, so I see 1, 2, 3. Nope, that's all 3 things I wanted to say. Oh no, sorry. The third thing I wanted to say is, that's actually for a further scene that I want to talk about when we talk about our favorite scenes and stuff. So
the last thing I wanted to say on this scene, and me and Cameron just riffing each other. We're each making each other think of great stuff. I love the synergy right now, Cameron. But the thing that Cameron just sort of tapped in me too that I think makes that scene special is that I think the scene early in the movie where he has this weird hallucination with Uncle Ben really works because you sort of get the insight there that the whole idea of with great power comes great responsibility. Peter was in it because that's what Uncle Ben wanted him to do even. And here with Aunt May, it's sort of him coming to that point for himself and not for Uncle Ben, not for no one else, but he now is with great power comes great responsibility. And he understands that and he believes in it, not just because it's what he thinks Uncle Ben wants his life to be, but he sort of now reconciled to that point and understands that and wants that to be kind of his coda. And so I like the earlier scene with Uncle Ben as well to tie it back in with the scene with Aunt May and how he sort of gotten to that point now.
He's able to accept that legacy that Uncle Ben unknowingly left to him without
having his own,
being mentally being in that car with Uncle Ben.
Yeah.
He's no longer in that moment with Uncle Ben. He's now living it fully, and it's part of it.
Yes.
Anyway, Trevor, do you want to say anything after Logan and I just riffed for 20 minutes?
Oh no, I was gonna throw it to favorite moments, favorite scenes, favorite other stuff. Cam, hit me with one of yours.
I think we'll definitely talk about my other ones too because we've already brought it up a couple times. But for me, probably and what is now my favorite moment in this film and in all the Sam Raimi trilogy is the ending, the very end. MJ showing up at in his doorway, at the threshold, and Is it a dumb, stupid line of "I've always been in your doorway"?
It's so good. I love it though. Yeah,
but I love it because it's so in line with her being Broadway cheesy, which is something that we get a lot of her character in this one, which I am so happy we do because
obsessed with
it. Like, yes, 100. Her entire scene of like in the like the importance of being earnest on the stage and everything. Yeah. There's something about her saying something so cheesy and dumb like that I just love. Yeah. But also the "Go Get 'em, Tiger" is that line, Tiger getting that like line punch. And just being like, yes, that's where we end it. That's where we end this movie. That's where we could have ended the entire Sam Raimi duology.
One of the reason I laugh the most at that being kind of like one of your favorite moments is I took a note, and this is by far not the only movie to do this, but it like when it happened, I was like, what a fucking dick move.
Oh yeah, right?
To play "Here Comes the Bride" when you know you're not going to be going down that aisle. Like what? Like why put everybody through that? That's just a piece of shit move.
Shout out to J. Jonah Jameson though, immediately taking the pragmatic approach of being like, call the caterer, don't open the caviar.
Don't tell her to open the caviar.
Yeah. Just so good because J. Jonah Jameson, he goes, this is going to be a very important moment in our family right now, and we're going to have to like recover from this. But first things first, don't open the caviar.
Yeah, and it pays off like the gag earlier that he wanted to just do like cheese and crackers, didn't want, but so it was like a nice like, oh, he did acquiesce as he is often to do.
He'll always acquiesce because at the end, it's the same thing we saw in the first movie. He has journalistic intent, when it comes down Green Goblin's in his office, I don't like protecting his sources, protecting his reporter.
Yeah, and like we get the nice little moment where he does have that like confession of like, Spider-Man, was good for the city, and then immediately gets to turn on a dime because he takes his suit back.
There's that. I will say, but to my point though, to get back to the ending real quick here, and let me wrap up my thoughts on it. I apologize. But
go off, King.
When it comes to that scene, I never realized it until watching it this afternoon during my lunch, that this entire time Peter had been setting what their relationship is going to be. And it isn't until he gives her up that she tells him, "Will you let me be the one to decide?" And she says, "Because I choose you. Like, do you love me?"
I mean, but that he did that at the end of the first movie. So like again, he
set up the boundary of not being with her at the end of the first movie, and now she's saying, "Let me decide," and he lets her decide. Yeah,
and that's like ultimately it's like, oh, they give it one extra beat in this movie. So yeah, just I'm torn on it. I like it. It's a fun enough beat, but I don't feel like it's a drastic character growth. It's just another reset point kind of thing of like, okay, sure, this time for whatever reason he's going to go along with it. He didn't go along with it last time when she wanted to try and like make it. And throughout this movie, he waffles on it in the most agonizing of ways of like, oh, now she's ready, and now I'm going to put a stop to it again. It's like, God, I don't like that will they, won't they kind of nature of the stuff. But Logan, let's throw to you for one of your favorite moments.
I was just going to say, sorry, last thing. She shows up in the wedding dress at his door, at the threshold of his doorway.
Yeah.
I fucking love that scene when she shows up behind him. I fucking love it.
Yeah, it's real good. I love. I mean, again, I am in love with this movie in a way that I wasn't before. There are so many small moments we haven't touched on, right? That I want to give a shout out to, right? Like, I think that Peter's landlord and his landlord's daughter are such great additions, and like, it's such a like kind of throwaway, almost random scene at the end of the movie, but like, I think it's Ursula, offering him like a slice of chocolate cake and a glass of milk is like such a nice moment. And like there's almost no words said in that scene, but it's like it's just so like nice. And I think it's just like one of the, to Cameron's point at the very beginning of this podcast, it's one of the few moments where like something just nice happens to Peter. Like it's just a good moment for him in a sea of like 2 hours of shit. And like even that is like sort of like solidifies like his faith a little bit more, and like I think his decision more, and like it's just a really good moment between those two characters. I think the like actual finale, like climax with Doc Ock and Peter is like really great. And I like Peter using the speech from Aunt May and like paying that off to Doc Ock. I also am in love with Peter holding the building and talking to Mary Jane, like, hi, this is really heavy, is like one of the funniest lines of the entire movie, I think. And again, like, that's who this Peter is. Like, that's who this Spider-Man is.
Like,
and like,
that Peter works for me great. That bit is fine because it happens and we move on.
Yeah, and like that moment feels like that would only happen with the Tobey Spider-Man. Like, I feel like I would never hear Andrew Garfield or Tom Holland Spider-Man say that. And like we talked a lot about last week, so I don't even regurgitate this point, but like, I like this interpretation of Peter Parker. I like the fact that this is the only Peter Parker who is poor, who is like truly like working class in a way that, you know, Andrew Garfield is more just like, he's basically middle class, right? And like, Tom Holland has the benefit of being an Avenger and, you know, Robert Downey Jr. sponsored him kind of shit. And like, it's just different, right? And like, this one is like, he's behind on every bill. He can't hold a job and he's super broke, right? Like, he really has $20 for the week kind of thing, and that gets taken by the landlord, right? Like, and I just love how...
And he only has the $20 because it's what Aunt May gave him for his birthday.
Right. And like, I just like, no other Peter Parker story with Aunt May and Uncle Ben feels as like constantly struggling for every nickel and dime, right? And like, her like going behind on the mortgage, and they can't, like, there's no happy ending there. She just has to sell the house, right? And like, I like that. That feels true to who I grew up with as my Peter Parker, right? Which was significantly informed by this series, obviously, but also like the comics I was reading at the same time, and like, you know, the animated series and those kind of stories, and like, it just felt right. And so I like that moment at the end, because it is just like, yeah, like, this is who Peter Parker is. Like, he's not super suave like Andrew Garfield, who's a little bit too cool for school, or even Tom Holland just is almost like too clever for his own good. And so like, I like that moment. I think it works really well. I think, you know, we've touched on it a little bit, but like, I think that Tobey Maguire and Alfred Molina's chemistry is like ridiculous. Oh, yeah. And I think that whole sequence with them at their lab just talking just like about science shit, and like, he tells me you're brilliant but lazy, and like, you know, I'm working on it, and the scene with like him and Doc Ock's wife, like, it's all so good. Like, I could have easily had like 20 more minutes of just like them hanging out before Doc Ock becomes Doc Ock. Like, it's so great. And I really love that dynamic. And obviously the fact that like Doc Ock is one of the few villains who isn't evil, right? And is just sort of corrupted by his own like dream and vision, and also like the AI controls him kind of thing. But like, I love that he's not going to take over the world or anything, that like, he is a scientist who like knows that he can do this thing, he thinks, and like knows that he can achieve this like scientific like breakthrough to like help the world, right? And I love how it's like Peter reminding him of like the privilege, right? And the sacrifice required in brilliance, that like turns him good again. Like the idea of like sacrifice in general that runs throughout so much of this theme, and how like sacrifice and like, you know, greatness are sort of bound together in some way. There's a give and take there. I really enjoyed the bank scene. Has a really great throwaway line, of course, by Joel McHale's like, really brave boy you got there, as Peter like sprints off and becomes Spider-Man. Fucking gets me every time.
What a hero.
Yeah. A moment I enjoyed this time around was, obviously there's that like fun little gag where Aunt May kicks him trying to kick Peter.
Yeah.
And I liked, I hadn't caught it before. If I had, I'd forgotten about it. When he gets up to leave at the end, he limps away.
Yeah.
Limps a little bit. Yeah.
Like, shout out to Joel McHale for like keeping the continuity of that character having just been kicked in the chin by an old lady.
It's so good. Like, there are so many small touches in this movie, right? And I think that's why I like it. Like, it all just feels like more of a struggle, right? And so like these few moments of like levity, to me, really light things up, right? One thing we haven't talked about at all that I'd be remiss if I didn't say anything about is that I think Danny Elfman's score is fantastic in this movie. I think the music in this film is so good. Like, just constantly throughout the whole thing. And like, I think in particular, you know, a lot of people have talked about the fact that like the MCU nails a lot of things. Like music has weirdly been something it like doesn't necessarily do great, and I think the instantly iconic like Spider-Man theme and like so many musical cues throughout this like lift this movie up so much and help strengthen some of its best moments. And so yeah, I definitely want to give a shout out to that, because I think it's for me one of the strongest elements of Spider-Man 2.
So something I want to talk about. I talked in the last movie that the action didn't really work for me in a lot of the like Spider-Man and Green Goblin stuff. The verse, like especially I think in comparison to the train sequence in this one between so Spider-Man and Doc Ock, but also like we had him at the bank earlier. I think the action
on top of the building
works really way better this time around. Across kind of all those fights, and so like this is, I think this like it's the standout action wise. Even if even if one of the trade-offs is the like don't kill Peter, don't hurt Peter, and like literally the next thing Doc Ock does to Peter is throw a car at him.
Yep.
The only way Peter doesn't die is because he's secretly Spider-Man. In that moment, it's like what. What kind of absurd? What was your plan there, man?
It's even better because thinking about that, it's also like he doesn't know that Peter's
Spider-Man.
Exactly. He needs Peter to get information. It's just like fucking hurl a car at him. It's such a great. I forgot all about that. It's so funny
because even during the train fight, he doesn't come in until after Peter's mask is back on.
It's like perfect. He has no idea, and then so like good. Even after that, he's like tell Spider-Man to meet me, and then throws him against a brick wall. He gets covered in rubble. Like there's no way that works and gets him Spider-Man if Peter Parker isn't Spider-Man.
Well, if
all that happens, Peter Parker dies.
Yeah, that's fucking good. That's really great, Trevor.
I think that speaks directly to the badness of Doc Ock.
Oh yeah, exactly. Like he's not acting from reason or anything like that.
Not at all.
But it's like What's your plan there, man? If you just throw a car at Peter and Peter Parker dies, how do you find Spider-Man now?
Well, it's also like the same madness.
It's so great though. The Spidey motion of that is lit. Yeah. It's so great.
One of the things I love about his plan when he rebuilds his machine is he goes, I have to just have a larger containment unit. And then the thing talks to me, goes, and I have to put way more of the tritium in this.
Yeah.
And it's just like, oh, he's so nuts at this point. Yeah. And I love it. Alfred Molina is so unbelievably brilliant. He is a character defining role in the Spider-Man universe. And I love when he goes, no, the inhibitor chip is gone. Oh no. And then it's just like, but I didn't need I didn't need the inhibitor chip. Oh yeah, you're right. And it's talking to them all. And I love all of that.
Yeah. I mean, they definitely kind of like lean into the stuff that really worked with Norman of like, all right, we're just gonna give a great actor a scene where he's just gonna talk to himself.
It's fantastic.
Let's get a mad lad or a maddening person I guess I'm gonna stick with it. Mad lad monologue of like he's a crazy person and he's talking to himself in a really insane way. It's the same thing with the mirror scene in the first one in Spider-Man 1. It's this scene where he's in the warehouse talking to them back and forth like that. I loved it. Good. I thought it was fantastic. Also, on top of that, I will say that I love the interconnectedness of Doc Connors when he says, "Oh, I'm writing on Dr. Octavius." Well, you should know he's a personal friend of mine, so I'll know how good you're, like how accurate you are.
Yeah.
And so, then that leads into Harry's trying to double down, follow his father's legacy of doubling down on science, focusing on science, and also kind of like doing like hey, my dad was focusing on weapons. I'm going to focus on energy.
Yeah.
And like that idea of it. I'm like, I love that about Harry. Nobel Prize! Nobel Prize!
I mean, like the happiest he is in this moment or in this movie is like when the board member behind him's like, this is a far greater achievement than your father ever could have come up with. Like that's his win. It immediately turns sour. But like that's him getting a victory in this.
Well, he gets the greatest compliment he could ever get, and then it goes sideways immediately to create his immediate like downfall. It's perfect. You're right. You nailed that. I will say just like also I love, like you said, that those moments you get with Alfred Molina and Tobey Maguire riffing on being like, oh yeah, but to my point, Doc Connors, he goes, yes, I know Doc Connors. He talked like also I love that he mentions Dr. Connors talks about Peter a lot. which shows that, once again, shows Dr. Connors isn't just like a character. This is an established person in this universe who talks to his friend and colleague about how frustrated he is about this incredible young prospect.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And yeah, brilliant, but lazy.
Yeah. The like some of the stuff I really just enjoy about Connors is like, I'm trying to be here, sir. Then be here. Like it's not rocket science to show up to things, man. And like I think that's my frustration. Like, and I get that it's by design. I just don't. It just like in execution, a lot of the like flakiness of Peter doesn't work for me in this movie, because it doesn't feel like he's actually trying to not be flaky, and we don't get to see him actively make a decision to be a hero in a moment instead of do the thing that he's being responsible to do. Like we don't, like when we get introduced to him, we get a line, a disturbance came up and he puts the mask away or something, but we didn't see him.
But we get that later, like, during when he has to choose to go to
Mary Jane's
play on time, or
that's like the one time we get that. And
I think that serves as a great example, but I can see your frustration.
Yeah, I think it comes too little too late for me to justify how much of flake he's already been throughout the rest of the film, I think
that's fair.
I like it, I think, because to me, we're sort of seeing it through their eyes. And like everyone else just thinks that Peter is flaky or is unreliable, when in reality, obviously he's like the first thing from it, but he's just doing, superhero shit, right? And that's why he can't be in class or make the play or that kind of stuff. And so like, but they don't know that, right? For obvious reasons. So they just view him as flaky or unreliable. So the movie sort of almost shows it through their eyes, for this one moment where we get to see him. That's why he was like the Mary Jane's play, right? And I like it for that reason. It's almost giving us it through like their perspectives.
I also think that it gives the biggest example of like, well, Peter can't be Spider-Man. Peter's late to everything.
Yeah. So I think that it's a very weird connection that I just made in my mind, and it largely probably just comes up because I was talking about it in a work meeting the other day. What? There's a lot of Peter in this that reminds me of like how I used to feel about Rent versus how I feel about Rent now. The show Rent.
Okay.
Like,
God. I already know what you're gonna say.
Like, let's go. Say it, Trevor. Say it with your chest. Let them hear it.
So, I mean, the Rent analogy that I'm making is like, when I first got introduced to Rent, it was like, yeah, the bohemian lifestyle. That's the way you gotta go. Excellent. And nowadays when I watch Rent, I'm like, Benny is trying to help his friends and they are all villainizing him. He's trying to get everybody paid so they can make their art, and he's the bad guy because everybody is addicted to this like struggling artist lifestyle.
Also, shout out to Benny in Rent also being the one who actually pays working class people.
Exactly.
And also covers.
So we don't need to dive down the Rent rabbit hole. That's just the connection that I'm making.
A million times off air. Yeah.
The connection I'm making is, if Peter can't take care of his own damn self to just function as a human being, he's not going to be able to be a hero much longer. And so the fact that like he can't, so I don't have sympathy for him not being able to like cover his own costs and pay his bills because he's going to like, there are things that just let the police do their job and be the hero and like, so I think even that's a moment that like the movie is trying to show me a moment where he chooses to be Spider-Man instead of go to Mary Jane's play. And it's like, or you could just let all the swarms of cop cars, and yeah, sure, he does say, like, as I had that thought, a cop car flips and he webs it and saves people's lives. Fine, I get it. I get that that's what they're trying to make. But I think, like, he is being Spider-Man to the detriment of himself, and that is not going to let him be Spider-Man forever. And so I like, there's an element of like, the Chris Pine Spider-Man that we get at the beginning of Across the Spider-Verse is the Spider-Man that had it right. Of
Absolutely.
Like, he's going to be the hero, but he's also going to figure out a way to get paid doing it.
He successfully monetizes Spider-Man in a way that doesn't tie it back to him.
Yeah.
He nailed it.
So yeah, that's the like the circuit of memories and thoughts that just went through my brain, linking this to my thoughts on Rent.
That's fair.
But
that was fun.
I do like I like a lot of this stuff in spite of itself sometimes. We talked about the scene between Peter and Doc Ock and his wife kind of thing, and
so
like that being a nice scene, and I like the enjoyment of it, despite the fact that that scene in particular starts with, "What do you think we've been talking about for the last hour and a half?" And it's like, all right, that's just an expositional shortcut to show us that you guys have been having this conversation for a while, and it's there to bring the audience up to speed to what they're talking about. You would not normally say that in that kind of framework. And then also just, I don't like, it just doesn't work for me. The dialogue of like, did so-and-so sleep before they did this? I'm like, yes,
Absolutely,
they did.
They did.
Absolutely. All of those things they did. Why is that the thing you're jumping on? Like, are these like characters that are like notoriously narcoleptic before their big discoveries? What, like, it just seems like Sam Raimi likens like not sleeping to genius, and I'm like, I don't understand where that's coming from.
It dials back direct. Also, like, did Edison do it? Yeah, because he slept while whoever actually invented the light bulb invented it for him.
Oh my god!
Yeah, well, yes, he was sleeping like a baby while Tesla was doing his stuff.
Yeah,
but yeah,
get fucked, Edison.
So like, there are dialogue things that, despite how cheesy and bad they are, I'm still bought in because it's great performances.
Oh, yeah.
And the back and forth that they're having is a fun camaraderie that they riff on each other with, even if what they're actually saying makes zero sense.
Also, T.S. Eliot isn't that hard to understand.
I mean, like, there are choices in the movie, like the poetry that they choose to kind of like continue to draw from, and the fact that the play that MJ's in is Importance of Being Earnest, where I'm like, I feel like a better movie would have made those more thematic choices, as opposed to, or at least had like some kind of like, hey, I can go and find the trivia, and here's like the secret meaning behind this line of poetry that Peter's like really connecting to. And they don't. They just feel like Freshman 101. Hey, here's a play we're going to throw in, and here's a poem that we're going to throw in for the character to say. And they don't feel like they have like deeper meaning that they could have.
I'll be honest with you, I don't think they're supposed to. Don't forget, like, Sam Raimi's film thesis when he graduated was literally The Evil Dead.
Yeah, I mean, like,
he's not that kind of director.
Right. It's the kind of thing of like, the Importance of Being Earnest is a very surface level, like, you get it? It's important that you be honest to these people. And it's like, okay, but you could have had the movie examine that in a way, as opposed to it just being like the scenes that we see of her could have been like a deeper thing, instead of just like, oh, she's forgetting a line in a scene. Oops. So like, I have my gripes with those things too, but that's like that one in particular is just like the theater nerd in me is like, do it, like, make that have a point to it, and don't just do it to show us that MJ is a performer. And but MJ is out there making it on Broadway or whatever. And so
the point is, it's important to be on. It's so surface level.
Yeah.
It's so on the nose.
Yeah. But yeah, those are just dumb little other things that jump out at me. One sequence I think we got to talk about, and I'm surprised we haven't really delved into this deep, is the
train.
The hospital. The hospital sequence. We talked about the train a little bit already, and we can certainly visit back to the train stuff. But yeah, the hospital so horror good. Scene.
I am stunned it's in the movie, honestly. It is so much more violent than I remember it being. I am honestly stunned it made it in the cut.
Let's be very real. They specifically can't have blood in this scene. Otherwise, it for sure would be rated R. The fact that it's... Also, in a way, it's even more brutal because everybody dies due to blunt force trauma. Like,
the image of the nurse... nails on the ground is genuinely haunting. It is like genuinely from like a horror film. Like this whole sequence, like, to me, like, taps into like the best of Sam Raimi's, like, someone who did horror films, right? Like, it is so dark and so like terrifying in like all the best ways. Like it is so great, and I love the fact that it is also lit the way it's lit, and it's a lot of it's done through like shadows. Like it feels very much like the opening to Jurassic Park, right? Or like the Velociraptor, where you don't see what's happening, but you just like hear it and watch the shadows and like the like little slits of light. Like I think it's absolutely incredible. I also think, again, to say it again, I'm amazed it made it a movie in 2004. It for sure would never be in an MCU movie now. It is, and the closest thing we got is from another Sam Raimi movie.
Yeah.
And it is absolutely, it's incredible. It is so unhinged and dark and like genuinely unsettling.
Also, shout out to the Evil Dead 2 reference when with the chainsaw.
Oh yeah.
That's right out of Evil Dead. The whole like cutting off his own hand thing after he's been possessed. That entire thing is, I love it so much. But no, I will say that when I watched it, and I had to rewind it. When the girl with the nails is like getting dragged, she's not just scraping it. You see like nail pieces fly off.
Oh yeah.
It's so visceral.
Oh yeah.
It's so intense.
It's so much.
It's incredible.
Yes, just discussing it like I'm cringing in my chair here.
It's the defining image to me of that scene.
It's I hear it even though I can't hear it kind of moment.
Yeah.
Also, we heard how indestructible these arms are, and the guy's just trying to like, for the life of him, trying to cut it with the chainsaw, and it's just sparking, and it's so good.
Yeah. It's another thing that, as I'm not a big horror fan, like it largely I'm not a fan of it, but the fact that it's not gory and stuff like that is what makes it work for me better than
it's more of like a thriller, like tense.
It is the best case scenario of a horror scene for me.
Yeah.
In that it's not like physical body horror stuff. It is a lot of like cuts, or it is like, okay, a tentacle, hit somebody and they go flying through a window or something like that, or it hits somebody and like we just know they're dead because it cuts away from them. Like it's that kind of thing. Whereas if it had been like, oh yeah, a tentacle just goes through somebody's chest and we see like blood spurt out the other side, it's like, nope, that would have been I don't need to watch that kind of sequence.
Honestly, do you know what it feels like to me watching it again is a little bit like to a different degree, but similar to like a Tarantino violent scene. I mean, minus the blood, but like it is just like this explosion of violence in a really short span of time, and then just sort of settles, right? Because Tarantino's action sequences are really short, but they're just this explosion of like visceral violence. This one, it kills 10 people in a minute and a half. And it's just like this like grenade goes off, and it is so visceral, so intense, so everything so quickly, and then it just like boom, it's done, and you just have this carnage of a like operating room left. Like it is, it's just incredible.
Yeah,
Cameron.
Oh yeah, no, I was just gonna say one of the things I love about it is like, for sure, if this was any other, let's be real here, there definitely should have been like blood and stuff based off the injuries that some of these people received. That being said, I'm okay that there isn't. I also found it very, very, very funny that this works for Trevor. In such a, it's like, this works for Trevor.
It works for me as much as it can. Is the kind of thing. Like,
it works the horror scene.
This is as big. This is as close to like gory horror as Trevor is willing to get.
Yeah, like if it had blood, if it had some of that body horror stuff, it would be a, like, this does not work for me kind of thing. So the fact that like it is much more psychological, and like we see the violence, but a lot of it is like implied violence,
and it's muted a lot.
It is like the scariest scene in this sequence for me is the nails being drugged.
For sure.
Like that is the worst like want to look away moment for me. Enough, like the rest of it is campy enough in that Sam Raimi way that it is like I can have that suspension of disbelief. Compared to if it had been like more realistically shot kind of thing.
Yeah.
I also think that comparing it with Multiverse of Madness, to me, is a great example of like how much better this is than the gory scene in that one of like, Scarlet Witch taking up like the faux Avenger people. Yeah. Like this works so much better than I think that does. And it utilizes, I think, cuts and sort of like not shown what's actually happened to such a great extent. Where I think that sequence, for me at least, largely falls flat because of, I think, how over the top it is, but in not the right ways.
See, and I disagree with you on that because I actually really enjoy that scene in Multiverse of Madness. But here's the thing.
I wish I liked it more. Yeah.
But I'll also say, like, I'm also, like, full disclosure, like, I am a massive Sam Raimi fan.
Oh yeah, me and you are each on the same wavelength.
Yeah, I'm a massive Sam Raimi fan.
Right Spider-Man
I literally watched the last Evil Dead movie that came out in theaters. I went with my little brother and a friend of ours to go see it. I love, and like that's not even directed by Sam Raimi, but there's so many holdovers because it's his original stories and stuff. I'm a massive fan of, like, one of the reasons I love Dr. Octavius's wife's death is because it's probably the closest we get to a, like, outside of that hospital scene, it's the closest we get to kind of like a gory death because she is like impaled by glass, but we don't see any blood from it. And I think that it's a great way of like when I said it's muted.
I mean, it's like we don't even see the impaling. We see the glass coming at her. We hear her scream, and then we see Doc Ock turn, and
the body like
she's slumped against the gore. But yeah, we're not seeing the glass in her or anything like that. We just see her slumped against the pillar.
Yeah. And I think that that's what makes this kind of feel like, that's what makes that kind of work. I would be okay with it also showing it, but that's just also me.
I mean, yeah, it's the like to give a contemporary example from this time. Like that we talked about in the last one, like the first Resident Evil movie came out at the time, and like I don't think I've ever sat through and watched that movie in its entirety, but I've seen the sequence with lasers, and I've seen like the character get like turned into chop suey by a whole bunch of lasers, just slicing them in bits, and I'm like, I don't need to ever see that again, because just the one time it's been like ingrained in my brain. So the fact that like this movie doesn't, I think makes it a stronger showing. In part because it is doing that thing of like, you know, your imagination can always make it worse.
Exactly.
But like it doesn't have to. So your imagination can go as far as you want your imagination to go with it. That's I mean, like Cameron and I, big Dimension 20 fans, and they just did a horror season not too long ago. And like that all worked fine for me because as they're describing all these horror elements, I can visualize it in my mind just as far as I want to. I'm not going to push it past my own like mental limits to be like, I'm going to make myself more uncomfortable. So
I do.
Yeah. Cause you're a weird guy. But yeah, so the fact that like this movie, like doesn't like get in its own way in that regard. And it does like, it shows violence, but it shows a level of violence that, it gets away with in a PG-13 kind of setting. And you can do what you will with, I think, is what makes this the most digestible Sam Raimi horror for me, compared to other options that it has. Any other moments or sequences or anything that we haven't chatted about that we want to give some love to?
I mean, I guess we have talked about the train enough. We don't have to go back to it.
The train's great. The train is absolutely fantastic.
It's definitely the set piece of this film, I think, as far as character, drama, action, all of that. I think that it is, whether it's him being thrown off, but getting, like, latching onto it with his webs, and then sliding around the streets before he gets back up on top. It's the, them toppling
Which
on
is
the
a Spider-Verse scene.
Yeah.
It's actually from, like, Spider-Verse,
It's the way that it does action and movement, the way the CGI works, the way that they incorporate CGI with green screen and other like real life action moments is so fantastic. The fact that Doc Ock's arms work so well because they are so they are so actually real, like real like real animatronics and stuff like that are actually there and working. And I remember you said in the trivia, like 4 people were operating them. It had different. Molina named them differently depending on what their kind of like attitude and personality was. He like it works so well because one of the things I really love about Sam Raimi is he's so great about using practical effects with special effects in a incredibly effective way that I think also helps the fact that this movie came out 2 decades ago.
almost 20 years.
Almost 20 years.
19,
Yeah, almost 20 years ago, this movie came out, and the CGI still looks pretty good.
Yeah.
Yeah, I definitely noticed more rough spots this time around, and largely because there are sequences where it's a CGI Alfred Molina instead of a CGI Green Goblin. So like seeing CGI Alfred Molina hurling the thing of the arm of a clock tower thing at Spider-Man, it's like, oh, he doesn't look great there. But yeah, there's still plenty there. There's also in the train sequence, I found myself like when he has the flash just seeing like the end of the track, having a moment of like, what a weird design for this train. Like, where was this train going in general? But there is like a stop, but also there isn't like a way for the train to divert and turn around. So it's still like, it's a great sequence, but I do have to turn my brain off a little bit to fully appreciate it because yeah, otherwise it's like, where would that train have normally gone?
Well, I think that's how they take the train off.
But I don't like
to service it and stuff. Like it's the same way they do with it's the same
like
way they
it's
do
the
with,
end of the track. Like so the train hits its last stop and then it's just done for the day. Like that's what I'm saying is I don't understand.
Oh no, so you have not ridden the light rail a lot, Trevor.
No, but like the light, like I know the end of the track for a light rail is okay. It goes somewhere. It doesn't go to an end of a track that like overlooks the river kind of thing and then finds a way to turn around or like it's I know how trains work. I know,
well, yes, but on those trains there's the front and back both have operator panels out.
Sure.
So it gets to that point and then they go onto the other side and then they go the other way.
What I'm saying is this one doesn't have that other side. Like in the sequence that we see here, it doesn't have like if it turns around, it's going back down the same track that we just saw. It doesn't
turn around. It's just the operator goes to the opposite end of the train and reverses it.
That's what I'm saying is so there's only one train on this track is what I'm saying is so because if it does that and it reverses, it's going on the same track that another train going this way would be.
Eventually it would get to a point where the other lines interact and they switch.
It's a very nitpicky thing, but it's just a like
we're getting into the weeds
that kind
here.
of the stop reminds me of there's a point in the light rail track where there is like a firm stop that it has to go over, and they can use that to then get the light rail cart off of the tracks themselves. There has to be like an offloading and loading point for those.
Yeah. It's just I think it's the if I'm not getting caught up in the like action because I've seen this movie so many times, I have these moments where I'm like, but wait, like what is the real world like? How does this if Doc Ock doesn't ruin this train, how would this have played out? Like they would have gotten to a stop, but then there's just track that goes on to the end that just cuts off right at the waterfront. I don't understand that.
I think that the train tickets is great. I actually just earlier today, I was listening to like a Letterboxd like interview with like Christopher McQuarrie for Mission Impossible: Dead Reckoning Part 1, and he was talking like actually pretty extensively about like how hard train sequences are to do, whether real or CGI or a combination of the two, and he was like naming like great examples in the past. And that sort of gave me the like extra context of just like train sequences are hard. I mean, like they're hard to do. And I think this is a great one. I think the action is so energetic and fluid and like the way they're balanced on the different like train carriages and into the train itself. And, I obviously like the emotional beat of it. I think it works so well. I love Toby. Like, I mean, obviously it's like such an instantly like parodied and iconic and, you know, homaged reference in like every movie ever now, like him like holding the weight back and like doing that.
And also shout out to him not doing it in like the sexy Winter Soldier holding the helicopter way. And it like the face that's been on the screen for the entire video of this episode is him doing the like kind of
and like but like it like that feels like exactly, more realistic than Chris Evans doing his shit. And like it's and I love the fact like it's like the very subtle, like just like small rip that pops up in like his arms. Like it's all so great. And I love the fact that like, again, you know, like Spider-Man's like powers are incredible, but especially in like the Raimi Spider-Man trilogy. Yeah, but especially in like the especially in the Raimi trilogy, like he's not, again, I've said this episode, he's not a god, right? Like he is a person, right? And like like the sheer strength to take that would exhaust a normal person, right? And he just like collapses from that, and like that feels right versus like some of the stuff that like Garfield or Holland do, and like, well, Holland always has like a Iron Man suit on, so his is a little bit different, but like that Garfield does, right? And like, yeah, like this feels right. Like even though he is super powered, he's not like an alien, right? And so like it feels right that he would just like be exhausted after that. And I love how much like he just can't even put up a fight when Doc Ock comes back on. Obviously the train carriage sequence itself, I think, is really beautiful. There's like a whole bunch you're doing about how like the Spirit of New York post 9/11 is wrapped up into that scene.
And the actual like final sequence of Spider-Man like swinging down the city with like all of the emergency response vehicles and CG stuff flying through.
Yeah. And like that's fair. Like this is what America was 2.5 years after 9/11. That's totally fair. But like that scene works so well. I think that sequence as a whole, both the action and the emotion, is still excellent 20 years or almost 20 years later. So yeah, the train sequence is great. And it's pretty clearly like the both action and like emotional climax of the film.
Yeah, I think again, it's one of, if not the most iconic Spider-Man moment.
It has to be.
So like seeing it, it's like I can't help but be like, oh, that's right. Like this was like, if not the first, you know, to do it in this version, it's certainly the most memorable to do it.
Yeah.
You know, compared to the animated series and the you know, decades and decades of the comics itself. Like it is, like it's the fact that every other version again has like tried to replicate it, and even in the most recent Spider-Verse movie, there's like a little throwaway gag in the Spider Society kind of like training area where somebody's just doing that kind of thing of like holding, you know, trying to pull two things together, and turns into like its own little bit. It's a thing that all Spider-Men are trained to do because of this movie and this Tobey Maguire moment. So,
let's rank shit.
Before we do, I want to say I did take a moment to look it up. I know what it is, but I'm just what that thing is at the end of the line and why it is there. I looked it up and I know what it is now.
Cool.
Okay.
I saw you doing the search and keying in a whole bunch of stuff, and I was like, all right, Cam's definitely trying to figure out this light rail thing.
So it's called a buffer stop, and that extra line is there in case when they hit the brakes, they still need to go farther because of the inertia. And that thing at the end is a hard stop for the bumper before the end of the line. And it makes sense if it's Manhattan and it's on an island, that the end of the line might end up being the end of the train track line might end up being at the coast.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. That checks out to me.
I guess my thing is less that and more that there's only one track. Like we don't need to
go back down this rabbit hole again.
Diving into our report card, we're great from A+ to F. What does everybody want to give? Spider-Man 2, Logan. We will start with you. I'm guessing it's an A+, given that it's your second favorite superhero movie of all time.
Yeah, it's an A+. I mean, again, like that was the thing. Like I came into this being like, it's gonna be an A for me probably. Like I'm gonna like a lot. It's gonna be, you know, my favorite Spider-Man movie. I had already talked about that. I was pretty confident in that, but it had been a year since I had seen it all the way through, and not just like select scenes. But yeah, I mean, this was like one of those moments that was really great, right? Like to like fall more in love with a movie that you already liked a lot, right? Especially for me, because I'm someone who is sometimes a little nervous to like watch some of my very, very favorite movies again, because I'm always like, I don't want it to like not be as good again kind of thing.
the Sean Connery, James Bond, you only live twice effect.
Right, yeah, a little bit, right?
That doesn't hold up very well at all.
That one I just, yeah, I've watched the movie so many times, but it had been so long since the most recent one. But like, yeah, like kind of, right? Like I don't want to not love the thing still, right? And this is such a great example of being like, you know what, like, even if I don't love every single thing about it, like it's still a movie that I enjoy and love. And in this case, I end up loving it even more, which is what happened when we did our Bond watch for like Goldfinger, for example. And I like fell more in love with that movie, and same with like Casino Royale. Like I fell more in love with those Bond movies. And so if anything, this movie's sort of like made me be like, you know what, I should just watch the things I like more because I like them a whole bunch. I like it a whole bunch. It's an A+ for me. It is my second favorite superhero movie, I think. Again, that could change kind of any given Sunday, but right now I'm on a big Spider-Man high for obvious reasons. And yeah, I think it's great. I think from Toby to Alfred Molina to Kristen Dunst to James Franco to Aunt May, it's just like all the cast delivers so well for me in both the small moments and the grand epic action moments.
All right. Cam, how about you?
That's an A+. It's an easy A+ for me. This movie is my favorite of the Sam Raimi trilogy. It's my favorite up until we get into the Tom Holland saga of films, where I think that it ranks up there for me, and it's definitely one of the top 3 Spider-Man. Actually, let me take that back. Let's roll that back a bit. It's in the top 5 Spider-Man films of all time.
Top 3 live action.
Top 3 live action, yes. I'd say it's somewhere 2 or 3 in my top of my live action Spider-Man films, and probably somewhere in the middle of the pack when it comes to all Spider-Man films. It's extremely great. This is one of the best films of the 2000s. It's an iconic film that has also helped, like Trevor, you mentioned it multiple times. This has created a legacy within the Spider-Man mythos. And
Superman mythos. I mean, just superhero mythos at large. It has such a huge like shadow.
Yep. Also, I want to say, I forgot to mention earlier, there's a massive, awesome shout out to like the old school Richard Donner Superman with the shirt popping that he does when he's Spider-Man. That is just fantastic. I forgot to mention that. This is an A+ for me.
All right. Trying to think where it falls for me, and ultimately, like,
you gave Spider-Man 1 a B, if that helps.
I gave Spider-Man a B-, I believe.
Did you?
I think.
No, you gave it a B.
We gave it a B+. I think you gave it a B.
I gave it a B+.
Yeah.
You gave it a B.
Yeah.
All right. Then I guess this falls as an A-. I was debating between B+ and A- for me, really.
Still a great grade.
Yeah.
Right? Either way.
Like, yeah, it's a good movie, and like we've talked about my gripes with this movie. It's just things in this movie don't work for me, but there's still a lot of good there.
I also want to just say for like in case anyone tries to like give Trevor shit in the future, Trevor very much likes this movie quite a bit still. He's just focused on the things that he doesn't like. It's not like he like hates this movie, so he's still giving it a B+, A- kind of range. Still very much a movie he enjoyed.
Yeah,
he just focused on things that didn't work for him as much.
And to kind of Cameron's point there, like, this is probably also the first time I'm really watching it after the Spider-Verse movies have come out, which Into the Spider-Verse, my favorite movie of all time. And I've watched it so many times. And Across the Spider-Verse, a very worthy successor that I've watched, I think 4 or 5 times in theaters.
5 times in theaters
already. And that's probably going to be it. I don't think I'm going to make it back out to see it again, but like that version of the character and what that series is doing with the character are so the A++ for me that like everything else is kind of now graded on a curve. And these are also already my least favorite of the iterations of Spider-Man. Again, it's been a while, so maybe my thoughts on Amazing Spider-Man have changed. Those definitely have their issues, but I liked the Tom Holland Spider-Man movies. I like the Amazing Spider-Man movies. I liked these ones very much for what they were when they came out, and they just haven't aged for me as gracefully as some of the other ones were. Again, maybe that'll change when Amazing Spider-Man comes around, but they're still good movies because Spider-Man's still a fucking amazing character.
Exactly, and that's sort of the beauty, I think, of Spider-Man. That's again a big point of Spider-Man 2, right, with the anime scene, but also the Spider-Verse movies. That like it is such a character that is so open to so many different interpretations, and so everyone can really kind of have their own Spider-Man in a way that like doesn't really work for Batman. Like Batman, you're probably going to be a Keaton or you're going to be like Christian Bale fan. That's probably where you're going to fall. It's probably going to be one of those 2 iterations. Whereas like it really does feel like whether it's Maguire or Garfield or Holland or the like Spider-Verse, Spider-Man, Spider People, even there's so many different versions of them in that. Like everyone sort of has them, they can rally on it. It can be like, yeah, like that's legitimate. That's a good answer. There's no like bad answer for like favorite Spider-Man. And even if it's not even necessarily Peter Parker, right? And like that, I think is sort of unique to really any other superhero that has like multiple films. Like none I think have been as successful in terms of just like having good like main characters in their series as well as Spider-Man has. Like I think they're also great things. Like because like Trevor said, Spider-Man's fucking rad, guys.
Mm-hmm. So diving into the Sinister Six, obviously we are ranking our villains across these Spider-Man movies. We have the Green Goblin, of course, at number 1 from the last time around. Where do we want to throw Doc Ock? Does he dethrone Norman and the Green Goblin, or does he come in at number 2?
For me, he's number 1.
I think he's number 1.
Obviously,
I think Doc Ock is just he gets a lot more of a tragic fall, like the tragedy of his, a combination of his, and this is so true to the character in the comic books too, of his arrogance and his insatiable pursuit of proving himself correct, is so ingrained in that character, and Alfred Molina is the perfect vessel to put Doc Ock on screen. And it's the best. I mean, this is the best, in my opinion, this is the best iteration of Doc Ock as a character. For sure. I love Willem Dafoe. I love everything about it, but the metallic mask of Green Goblin from the first film does not let us get as animated and as like a close, intimate feeling that we get with, that we get the entire time with Alfred Molina as Doc Ock.
I also love the redemption arc too. I was just gonna say the full circle, everything about it is so good. Like one of the best compliments I can give Alfred Molina's performance as Doc in this movie is that like I wish there were more movies that had villains like this, because like especially in the last few years it's become really cool, and trendy to have like villains who are like anti-heroes and who like aren't all bad, and that could be like a redemption arc here, that kind of thing. Shout out to Kylo Ren, who somehow managed to get one. But like, this is great.
Oh, you mean like Darth Vader, who also somehow managed to get one?
But Darth Vader's at least is way more earned. It doesn't matter. We're going to fall down way too many rabbit holes here.
He kills one dude. It's not earned. It's just given.
But like it's so good here, right? It's such a well-earned thing, and like I would love for there to be either more superhero stories that have villains like this, or even just like more films in general that like I think are sort of brave enough to like trust the audience to handle a villain who is as like complex and multifaceted and, like Cameron said, tragic as Doc Ock is in this film. I think it's great. I think Alfred Molina is great, and it seems like he's having a blast doing it. And I think for me he is number 1. But I also want to, again, we are batting 100 right now in villains in Spider-Man movies. It's going to change in a movie, but right now we're swinging high for the fences here.
I was going to say, especially in the context of like the modern era of superhero movies, it is very nice and refreshing.
Where they're so forgettable.
That not forgettable so much as, but like so many of the modern superhero movies take the route of doing like a mirror image of the hero. So you get like, you get a guy with powers. Okay, the bad guy is a guy with the same powers. Obviously, like starting with Iron Man
2. I can't even.
I mean, all of the Iron Mans. Like, the first one is okay. You had Iron Man, and then you have Obadiah Stane with like a bigger, more metal suit kind of thing. And so like that's so much the era that we've had, and so the fact that like neither of these are also spider people, kind of web crawlers kind of thing. They're both like weird creature themed, but obviously, next time is when we're going to get the Venom aspect to this one. And I think we'll see like that as a little bit of a change. So the fact that like, both of these are not just trying to be, okay, what if Spider-Man but dark? It's there's a deeper level to those. And I think, I didn't need to vote, but it was a number 1 for me too.
One thing I also, just to your point, Trevor, I actually really liked, I hadn't even thought about this right now, is that I think also one thing that makes both Goblin and Doc Ock like such great villains for Peter is how they're both like parental figures as well for him. So instead of being like the mirror image of Peter, like you sort of talked about, they're almost like the mirror image of like Uncle Ben and like the other side of like what, you can do with great power kind of thing. And so I like it from that angle as well, of sort of like the reflections they serve of like his own sort of lost parental figure.
Yeah. To a couple of other things that I mean, while I love Alfred Molina here, and I especially love like how they brought him back and use him in No Way Home, I also like, it would be hard for me to say I think this is like the definitive Doc Ock, because I also think they did a really good job with the Marvel Spider-Man game for PS4,
which is very very to this one actually. In a lot of ways.
Definitely.
Again, I'm
it's meant
first,
to be, I think.
And I think, I'm again across or Into the Spider-Verse. I'm a huge sucker for the Doc Ock in that one, because it's such a fun reveal, and it's part of one of my favorite sequences of all movies. Like I think the Alchemax sequence of Into the Spider-Verse is like a nearly flawless 20 minutes of movie making, in that it has like, it's establishing the stakes, it has humor, action, like great character moments, great reveals. Like it's real good, and the reveal of Doc Ock in that in particular is a real good one as well. But it's there. All of those are also, like they are built on, like it's a Alfred Molina walked so those can run kind of thing.
Yeah.
Which is true of Spider-Man 2 in general.
Yeah.
Right. Like it is the film that just made, again, like we said, not just Spider-Man, but like superhero movies in general owe so much to this one.
Indeed. The only other ranking segment we have on this, unless somebody else has come up with any, is our overall Spider-Man rankings. And so it sounds like definitively this is coming in as the number one spot.
Absolutely.
Kind of building on its predecessor in pretty much every way. So doing some great stuff there. Extra credit, other suggestions if you like this. Pretty much the same list as last week, just swapping in the Spider-Man 1 for Spider-Man 2. Still also recommending Fantastic Four and X-Men Dark Phoenix and other bad
You don't
movies.
need to watch those movies.
But I will say shout out, especially because our friends over at Kind of Funny did like a feature on American-born Chinese. Shout out to the fact that is getting kind of like the promotion. Because I hear good things about that.
You need to watch it.
Yeah. Extracurriculars. Anybody watching anything else on Disney Plus? I will say I mentioned it, I think, a couple weeks ago. I started to watch Anastasia a while back. I sat down and like finished watching Anastasia this last week and just enjoyed that. But then other than that, I watched Spider-Man 2 twice. So again, like I definitely, if people are going to come at me, and nobody's going to come at me, but if people were to come at me and be like, Trevor really hates this movie, I'm like, I watched it twice.
Yeah, no.
Like it's like
fine.
if I hated this movie, I would not have put myself through that a second time. I would have been like, I watched it, Sunday and did the doc and could have been done with it. But no, I watched it again last night.
Yeah.
And then like,
it's a fun movie.
Just as I was finishing it, Cameron sat down to start watching it and I was like, enjoy, because I had just enjoyed it myself.
I think, again, it's also something to be said for, we've talked a lot about, I think, Spider-Man 2's like groundbreaking status and just like appreciating the movie for that and just like the time and place it comes in, right? Like, I don't think any of us, certainly I don't think any of us would say that like, the like 78 Chris Reeves like Superman movie is like phenomenal, but we would all say like it's a super important movie that you should watch, and it definitely has like fun moments to it, right? And like I think it's better than that, but I also think it's like equally as important as that movie in terms of just like the arc of superhero films in cinema, and like 89 Batman, right? And like these movies might not be for everyone, but there's definitely, I think, fun to be had in them, and they're all super important, kind of the evolution of these films in kind of cinema at large.
Yeah. All right. Well, that is going to do it for this week's episode of That D Plus Show. Thank you, everybody, for joining me to talk about Spider-Man 2. You can follow Logan at LeftyLogie, LOGGY. Anything you want to give a shout out to there, Logan?
I'll give a shout out to That Nerdy Sideshow. Go check it out. They do lots of fun stuff. They had a spoiler cast about Dial of Destiny. They had spoiler cast about like everything, it seems like, at this point in time. Final Fantasy 16 with Brandon Gain, it sounds like. Go check out that podcast. and all the wonderful conversations that are happening there.
There you go. Follow Cameron at RevCabot, 2 B's and 2 T's. What do you want to give a shout out to there, Cam?
Ladies and gentlemen, this week is the final episode of Star Wars Jaffa, Jedi Fallen Order.
Oh, okay.
Let's Play
Totally
series.
valid.
It is the final episode. It is a banger from beginning to end. I'm very excited for it. Last week's was a perfect penultimate, second to last episode before we get into it. Lots of fun stuff happened, a lot of fun moments. This is the moment. This is when this game solidifies itself as a fantastic video game for me. It is truly what elevates this game that got me excited to right afterwards hop right into Jedi Survivor. I'm very excited.
It's a great ending. Fallen Order's got a great ending. I'm excited to see your action.
So yeah, check that out. It's coming out this Wednesday.
There you go. You follow me at Trevor J. Starkey. In addition to those things, I will shout out this past week was my final couple of episodes of Tears of the Kingdom.
Yeah, that's right.
At the day we were recording this Thursday was the day that my Let's Destroy Ganondorf episode went live. So that is all done, wrapped up. Maybe I'll come back if they eventually do DLC like they did with the first game. We'll see. But other than that, that's all wrapped up. So now it becomes do we actually sit down and do something for Tuesdays and Thursdays, or do we kind of take a little bit of a break? Because I don't really want to go back to Elden Ring.
Yep, nope,
just
same.
in general. I'm kind of like ready to call my piece with Elden Ring and be like, yeah, that was a game that we played.
I think we will have to return it one day. I'm not ready to return just yet.
Yeah.
We might also. We've been overloading our YouTube channel with Let's Plays. A week or two taking a break from making Let's Plays might be in order.
Yeah, we'll see. You can follow all of us over at That Nerdy Site or go to thatnerdysite.com for all the latest from us. Once again, if you liked what you heard, please remember to like, subscribe, rate, review, share the podcast with your friends, ring notification bells, all that fun stuff. Thank you for joining us. As always, stay nerdy, be good to each other, class dismissed, and thwip thwip.